Good morning and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners meeting workshop of September 24th, 2024. Could we please have the roll call, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Barnett.
Commissioner Barnett.
Commissioner Barnett.
Here.
Commissioner Baxter.
Here.
Commissioner Bernard.
Here.
Vice Mayor Marino. Mayor Sachs.
Here.
Commissioner Weiss.
Here.
Commissioner Woodward.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a quorum. And if we could now have Commissioner Weiss do the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise if you're able. Dear God, we are thankful for this day that you've given us, for its blessings, its opportunities, its challenges. We pray for strength and guidance for each day as it comes, for each day's duties, for each day's problems. May we be challenged to give our best always, and may we be assured of your presence with us. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we're going to go on to agenda approval. Do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions to the agenda as presented?
Mayor, we do not have additions, deletions, and substitutions. However, I would like the board at the end of the meeting to allow me to do staff comments. I have one item that I want to bring forward.
Very good. And could have a vote to approve the agenda. Very good.
Madam Mayor, so moved.
Good. And I have a second with Commissioner Woodward. All those for. Anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 6-0. All right, now let's go on to the regular agenda, which appears on page 2. And we have a staff report.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 3A, 1 and 2.
I'll
Good.
second.
We have a first by Commissioner Weiss, second by Commissioner Baxter. All those for. Anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 6-0. Very good. All right, moving right along to our workshop session. And we're going to start with 4A, which is the homeless legislation well, you can read it yourselves. Update. And I am looking forward to a very comprehensive staff report. Ms. Fields, you go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, Mayor, Commissioners, Ms. Baker. I'm Tammy Fields, Assistant County Administrator. At the table this morning is Dr. James Green, Taruna Mahaltra, and Wendy Tippett from Community Services, as well as Ezra Craig from the Housing and Homeless Alliance, and also acknowledge Ann Helfand from the County Attorney's Office. You'll notice that there are a lot of members of the public today who are also from the Housing and Homeless Alliance, and I do want to thank them for all of the work that they have been doing on this issue. I wanted to point out, if we can go back to the first slide for a minute. I wanted to point out.
I wonder if you could just speak a little louder.
Certainly.
We have a lot of folks in the back.
Okay. The one thing I think it's really important to point out on this first slide is the word community response plan. As we go forward and discuss, you will see that how we're approaching this issue on the homeless legislation is that it has to be a community response. It cannot be something that lies solely with the Board of County Commissioners and county staff. This requires cooperation with our nonprofit partners, our law enforcement, our municipalities, developers, and our faith-based organizations. So I just want wanted to emphasize that part. We've got 4 objectives this morning, and first is to really go through and discuss what the House bill says and also what it doesn't say, because there's a lot of confusion about that. And so we'll discuss the obligations that are placed on local government. We're also going to discuss the recommendations that have been derived as we've done various community outreach meetings, as well as with the Homeless and Housing Alliance and the Homeless Advisory Board. Internally, staff has also been meeting with many of our departments that are going to be involved, as well as working with faith-based entities, law enforcement, school district, business community, and many others. We're going to share some research about some of the key factors that drive homelessness and discuss the performance indicators from Palm Beach County's continuum of care, along with a brief history. And we really will try and keep it brief, but it is a long history of Palm Beach County and our investments in housing and homelessness. You'll note very quickly that this is not an issue that Palm Beach County has taken up as a result of this legislation. It is something that we have been working on for decades to address the needs. And then finally, we will discuss the Homeless and Housing Alliance's plans to prevent homelessness. Ezra Craig is here to highlight some of that and how we can increase availability and coordination of services. So I want to start with what this law says. And I'm going to quote some of the information. I did send out a memo about a month ago to all of the board members to go over in more detail what we're facing with this legislation. But the legislation does not prohibit homelessness. It does not criminalize homelessness. What it does is it prohibits a county or a municipality from authorizing or allowing any person to regularly, that's a key word, engage in public camping or sleeping on an overnight basis in any temporary location that is not fit for normal habitation. It does not include camping or recreational purposes where permits have been issued. It also does not include people who are sleeping in their cars as long as those cars are licensed and insured and they are in a place where they're permitted to be. The legislation also gives an option, but it does not require, and I think that's one of the points of confusion that have occurred. It does not require a county to designate a property that can be used for the public camping or sleeping. In other words, it does not require that we establish an encampment. And as we've talked with our colleagues around the state, it seems that very few, if any, counties are planning on establishing those encampments. It does not seem that that is going to be the way that anybody thinks it's best to approach it. But I did want to point out that if that was the board's desire to create it, there are a lot of requirements in order to establish such a location. One is that it could only be used for 1 year, which is part of the reason why it's not a really logical approach. We'd have to be looking at this every year. It also requires a certification by DCF. In order to establish it, we would have to make a showing that we had insufficient homeless shelter beds. The location couldn't be congruent to any residential property. It couldn't have any adverse effects on property value, safety, or children's safety. It would have to have minimum standards for safety and sanitation. And we would have to coordinate with Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network, and there could be no substance or alcohol use on the property. With all of those conditions and it only being 1 year, it shows why that would be a difficult thing to accomplish. There are effects on counties because it does allow after January 1st. The law goes into effect on October 1st, but after January 1st, civil causes of action for injunctive relief can be filed, and they can be filed by residents, business owners, or the Attorney General if there is a determination that county is authorizing or allowing public sleeping overnight on a regular basis. One of the downfalls of that is in the injunctive relief that attorney's fees can be awarded, and that would be one of the biggest expenses that would be incurred in that injunctive relief. It does not allow for damages to be paid to individuals that are bringing the lawsuit. One thing that is fortunate is that there is a notice period that has to occur before anyone could file a lawsuit. They would have to give us 5 business days notice with an opportunity to cure any perceived violation or to respond. One of the things I wanted to do is to emphasize what this law does not say. And it does not, by the law itself, by House Bill 1365, it does not criminalize homelessness. That does not mean that other municipalities or other jurisdictions may not adopt ordinances that would criminalize homelessness, but the legislation itself does not. It does not address daytime sleeping. You know, we've all seen people fall asleep on a park bench or on the beach, and it does not address any daytime sleeping. So some of the attention that's been paid, like on Clematis Street as an example of the individuals that are there during the daytime, it does not address that. It also does not prohibit panhandling. It does not address any private property. And finally, and this is one of the other misconceptions, it does not require a county or municipality to have a shelter bed for every single person who is unsheltered. That is not one of the requirements of the legislation. I wanted to point out that Palm Beach County has had ordinances in place for quite some time that do address the overnight sleeping. Section 18-2 of the Palm Beach County Code says that it shall be unlawful for any person at any time to occupy, lodge, or sleep in an open or private property, in vacant lots, in and under any bridges or structures, in a railroad car, without owning the same or without having permission of the owner. It also does not allow sleeping on any public beaches between the hours of 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. unless you owned that portion of the beach. As it applies to our county parks, Section 21-30 applies to our county parks, and it says that no person shall camp or erect or maintain a tent, shelter, or camp with any park property except in areas that are already designated by the Director of Parks for that purpose, and there is a permitting process as well for camping. And then we also have Section 11-273 of the County Code, which applies to sleeping or camping in environmental resource management areas. So this is something that's been on the books in Palm Beach County for quite some time. It was not, these laws were not adopted specifically in response to this legislation. I'm going to now turn this over to Dr. Green to discuss some of the specifics about the status of homeless or unsheltered persons in Palm Beach County.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tammy.
Hold on just 1 second, Dr. Green. We have a question from Ms. Fields. Hi, Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you for going over this. What about state property?
That's a great question that is not specifically addressed in the legislation. I have had discussions with the county attorney's office, and we're both in agreement that Palm Beach County cannot be responsible for enforcement on state property. That wouldn't fall within our purview unless we were leasing the property from the state. Interesting enough, though, there is no right to sue the state if the state was allowing individuals to sleep overnight on a regular basis on state-owned property.
I mean, it's not common, but occasionally you do see people, near on FDOT property, near the I-95. So you see on the, and then what about near, I guess, the railroads? Because I've seen people camping, especially down in Miami, near the railroads down there.
We are of the opinion
That's private.
Yeah, that the county cannot be responsible for the enforcement on private property or state or federally owned property. That would have to be within the jurisdiction of the federal government or the state government.
Okay. All right. And you mentioned it allows for sleeping in cars.
It allows for sleeping in cars that are properly licensed and insured if it is in a location where they're...
So if you have parking and you allow overnight, or I guess public, on public lands, then you could park if parking was allowed.
If parking was allowed on public lands and the cars were licensed and insured, it could be allowed. Also, if a faith-based organization or a commercial organization were to allow it on their property, it would be allowed as well.
And so, but a faith-based organization too could allow public camping, or not public, but camping on their property as well. There's no prohibition.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up with Commissioner Weiss's questions, any of these other ones would, even the railroads, that would be considered private property, and if they don't allow it, then it would be trespassing. Is that correct?
Right, but that would not fall under the jurisdiction of Palm Beach County government to enforce. They could obviously contact law enforcement if they felt that somebody was trespassing on their property.
So each of these other entities would have to have their own rules, so to speak, on what they would allow, and it's not, if it's not under our purview, then we're not going to be making an ordinance on that.
We're going to have enough on our hands dealing with our property.
Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Tammy, just real quick on the 5-day notice that you said that they have to give the county. Who do they submit it to, and how is that defined so in that way we get the proper notice?
It's not very clearly defined in the statute. They have to give notice to the county. It is not specific as to who, I don't believe. They would give the notice to, but I would assume that either the county attorney's office, county administration, or the mayor's office would probably receive that notice.
Oh.
But it is not something that is addressed specifically in the legislation.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, looking at the Florida House 1365, on page 6, lines 126, it states that an application for injunction filed pursuant to this subsection must be accompanied by an affidavit attesting that, 1, the applicant has provided written notice
Right.
of the alleged violation of subsection 2 to the governing board of the county or applicable municipality. And 2, the applicant has provided the county or applicable municipality with 5 business days to cure the alleged violation. 3, the county or applicable municipality has failed to take all reasonable actions within the limits of its governmental authority to cure the alleged violation within 5 business days after receiving written notice of the alleged violation. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. So does that mean that we could designate a contact, email, phone number, some sort of a contact that is where, as we do an ordinance, if someone wants to send this affidavit in, that we can designate where it needs to go?
I believe we are the governing board of the
You are the-
county.
right.
So it's we, it's us.
Well, I mean,
Okay,
is
so-
it coming to us or is it coming to?
No, it would come to the mayor of the governing board, and I believe we are the governing board. I can see our county attorney shaking her head. So we, as the governing board of the county, would receive notice that we're going to be sued. Okay, Dr. Green, you're on.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. So in January of this year, communities across the country conducted the annual point-in-time count to assess homelessness. And in Palm Beach County, the Community Services Department collaborated with the Homeless and Housing Alliance and over 200 volunteers, including law enforcement, to count unhoused individuals in various locations like parks, under bridges, and in vehicles. The homeless point-in-time count, or PIT count, revealed a 14.6 rise in homelessness, with nearly 1,580 residents identified as unsheltered, totaling 2,126. This increase affected seniors, youth, unhoused families, and most significantly, the rise amongst those who are experiencing chronic homelessness. And when we look at the percentage of homelessness compared to other counties by population, Palm Beach County is comparable to other areas such as Orange, Duval, and Miami-Dade. All of them reported increases. In contrast, Broward and Hillsborough counties saw slight declines, yet the proportion of homelessness amongst those are relatively the same and stable, with the exception of Lee County, which may have experienced some unique challenges due to Hurricane Ian. When we look at the root cause of homelessness, extensive academic research consistently identifies housing costs as a primary driver of homelessness. So factors such as rental prices and rent-to-income ratios and home prices show a direct correlation with homelessness rates. When accounting for variables like mental health and addiction, housing costs emerge as a far more significant influence. Studies repeatedly conclude that these other factors play a minor role compared to the impact of housing affordability. In 2023, 90% of families applying for rental assistance earning 30% or less of the area median income were considered severely cost burdened. So they were spending over 30, sometimes up to 50, 60% of their income on housing. And over the past 4 years, rising rental rates have coincided with increased homelessness, with an exception of 2020 and 2021 when the moratorium took place. And this graph details, rental rate trends and eviction filings overlaid with homeless counts. So the next section kind of outlines the mechanics of a homeless support system. It begins with the homeless outreach team who engages unsheltered individuals and families. Our residents and agencies can refer individuals who are unhoused to the contact center, and that number is 833-HHA-WILL. So then case managers assess the need of both single individuals and families, identifying potential family supports or travel assistance to other locations that may have a support system. And so all of this encompasses our diversion efforts. And then many referrals arise from family disputes where individuals who are couch surfing, and we see a lot of those families in the McKinney-Vento or the school district's homeless count. So many of the referrals come from disputes where they get into fights or they overstay their welcome, and they are unhoused. If they are unhoused, then we place them into shelters, and then they'll go into the waiting list after they have been assessed. And so what we try to do, and what you'll see as we go over some of our efforts, is we're going to try to enhance our mediation so that when those conflicts arise for those individuals who are couch surfing, that we can keep them in their homes as opposed to allowing them to go unsheltered. The Lewis Center and the Central County Housing Resource Centers serve individuals, while unhoused families, they find support with program REACH, which is our shelter run by Adopted Family, Melissa's Place in Pahokee, and local hotels. And from there, we have providers that assist in enrolling them in our various programs, Rapid Rehousing Program, where we offer partial subsidies, or the Permanent Supportive Housing Programs, which provides subsidies. They pay 30% of their income, and then we subsidize the remaining portions. Most housing subsidies, approximately 51%, comes from federal HUD dollars in programs. And then we have another 46% or so that funds our rental assistance, eviction prevention, housing stability, and related supports sourced from ad valorem funding, which also supports our shelters. And the state does contribute a small amount. And I think we recently received notice of an award of around $650,000 from the state, which we'll be bringing to you shortly, to help address HB 1365.
Dr. Green?
Yep.
Hi, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Weiss.
Okay.
I want to go back that last slide. That's all the state contributes? Is this normal for every other county?
Yeah, we're one of the larger counties, but they don't contribute a lot to a lot of other counties either. I mean, they have the DCF Unified grant that comes to collaborative applicants. It's a small portion there, and then, no, so they don't contribute a whole lot to this issue.
So we send our money up to Tallahassee, and they don't send it back to help us with this. And yet they created legislation, maybe rightfully so, but they created legislation that's going to impact us and basically tell you you're on your own?
Go ahead.
So the $10 million, state did allocate total $10 million, but our share is only $650,000.
Out of a $60 million annual budget for this.
This is for
This-
us. This
us.
is for the department.
Right, right. We're spending $60 million between ourselves, half of it from our local taxpayers, half of it money coming back down from the federal government to assist us with it,
Yeah.
and $600,000 from the state.
Yeah, and some of those dollars from the federal government are block grants through the states as well.
That's an abomination.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the state allocated $10 million towards the unsheltered, statewide, over 63 counties, I guess. 67, I'm sorry.
67.
So our share of that, we
Who
just
would
got.
you like to get rid of,
Yeah.
which county?
We just got word this week that ours is about $638,000.
I mean, appreciate it,
one
but
time.
it's
It's a drop in
one
the
time.
bucket.
Right. It's not a recurring, and this is not, as we know, this continues to recur out of our budget and out of the federal budget every year. Thank you.
Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm just staying with this slide. Can you go over the amount of money that we expended in 2023, and then also for fiscal year 2024? Specifically, like I saw that, on line 22, in 2023, we received about $25 million from the emergency rental assistance, and this year, I think in 2024, it was $13 million, so there was like a $12 million drop, but still, it seems like we only decreased our contribution in terms of homelessness by $4 million. So if you can kind of like go into that for us, please.
Yeah, so the line 22, talking about the emergency rental assistance program, those are federal treasury dollars that we expend on eviction prevention rental assistance and on relocation assistance now. And so we're seeing smaller allocations. We've expended a lot during COVID, and now those allocations are dwindling, and so that reflects the amounts that we have budgeted for 2024, and we use it for rental assistance.
Yeah, and Commissioner, these are not any new dollars. We got it during COVID. We are budgeting it each year and prioritizing our clients. So if, I don't have 21 numbers, but in 21 we spend more than $60 million. We have a very small allocation left for 2025. So currently the goal is to really work with the clients and do case management, work with them on getting them into employment programs, and then also help them with the housing subsidy.
Yeah, I think these dollars last until September 2025, and
then they are gone.
they're gone.
Follow up, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, go right ahead.
And-
It's a workshop.
So where do you see us going in the future after September 2025 when these dollars will no longer be available to us?
We're feeling some of that now because we've increased the screening criteria. We've made it more restrictive, trying to ration those dollars for the next year so that we'll continue to have some supports for the most vulnerable population, seniors, disabled, and households with kids. After those dollars are depleted, we don't have a whole lot of money to assist with rental, and so we've been discussing internally some ways to potentially offset that and to work with our community partners, and certainly encouraging municipalities and others to join us in helping to address this issue.
Okay.
If I could add, one of the things that we're starting to see is also requests from those who are that are in condominiums who are receiving special assessments, and we do not have any funds that have been allocated to be able to address those needs. But that is some of the requests that we are starting to see.
Since you brought that up, Ms. Baker, what can we do in regards to helping some of our seniors who have been impacted by some of these special assessments? Is there a way that do we have any type of funds like CDBG, any type of funds or ad valorem, whatever that we can do to create a special pot of dollars to assist some of our residents who have been impacted by this legislation?
Really, the only option that we have is ad valorem. Our goal is to work with our legislative delegation office and to go to the state, making that one of our lobbying efforts, along with taking it to the Florida Association of Counties, because we're not the only county being hit with this, as you well know. And we need assistance from the state as well as the federal government on assisting our seniors, especially staying in their condominiums with the assessment that they're currently facing. But locally, it's just ad valorem, because all of our funding we've already put in play and schedule, unless we're going to cut out some of the other programs that we assist through HUD.
Well,
Yeah.
right now, with our federal assistance and our state assistance dollars that we receive, it doesn't allow for usage with the condominiums. That it is one of the things that we could request in upcoming legislation is to allow for the sale or the SHIP funds to have latitude to be able to be used in that manner, but they don't currently allow for
But
that.
please keep in mind that this year, this coming year, we lost about $4 million in SHIP allocation.
Yep.
The state cut us by that.
Yeah, but I know the state just cut us some of those dollars, but, I'm just thinking that, is there a way, let's say we can create a $1 million pot or something, or $1 to $5 million that we can use, to help some of our seniors that have been impacted by this special assessment. I know it's not, we cannot use any federal dollars or state dollars, but if there's a way that we can assist some of our seniors, that could potentially have to lose their home, I think that as a board, I'd love for us to at least consider and see if that's something that we can work on. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
If I may, do we know when the special session is going to be held? Has that announcement come from Tallahassee yet? Do we have
No.
any of our lobbyists here on behalf of the county?
Casey is telling me no in the bag.
We do not have a date yet
not
for that. Okay, okay. that's
Madam
good.
Mayor,
And
I
have
can-
we put out what we think should be done to alleviate some of the costs from anybody, not just seniors, but anybody who are hit with these special assessments on the condominiums? Have we done that yet, Ms. Baker?
No, ma'am, we have
Okay.
not.
I would like to see in response to Commissioner Bernard's interest in this, that we should definitely put in there. We probably have more condominiums in this county than most of the 67 counties. So I'd like to see what Commissioner Bernard has requested, that we do that with regard to probably putting together a fund where they can pay their special assessments, or at least a moratorium on the reconstruction of some of these older condominiums. If we could, Ms. Baker, following up on Commissioner Bernard, and you have to say, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So for me, I just think that if we can, since we're doing this workshop and, we're addressing this issue, and Tammy, you brought it up, I'd love for us to, if we can agree on an amount that we can create a fund that we can help the people who are being impacted by these special assessments. We can, let's say $5 million that we can, I'd love to hear from my fellow commissioners to see if we can craft something that we can help. In regards to the special session, Madam Mayor, the state has not made a decision in regards to when the special session would be. Most likely, it's either would be during the reorg in November, which would be November 19th, or it would be probably most likely it'd be during the week of December 9th through the 13th, which is the next committee week. So in that way, a decision could be made before the end of the year.
Very good. Commissioner Baxter and Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've been discussing quite a bit over the past year, affordability, keeping people in their homes, especially if they own them. And these condominiums are no different. And with these special assessments going to them, and now we just covered homeless, prevention, and we're discussing how to get people off, the streets, and where are they going to go, where are they going to sleep. This is all part of that. And where we have put almost $50 million into reserves, that money isn't doing those people any good. I think if we wanted to set aside $1 million to try to help these people stay in their homes and keep their homestead exemptions and give them a place to live, I can't think of a better way to support our residents. This is, one of those things that are important, because ultimately we're going to pay for them and providing other services for them if they become homeless. So why not keep them in their homes and keep them in their safe and comfortable space where they want to live. And if we need to allocate $1 million worth of money to do that so that they're not ending up using other resources, I think this is best for them. It's best for the county. It's actually the more fiscally responsible thing to do. And I will leave that to the experts to determine how that works. But I think $1 million, a pot of money, is much more useful to them and keeping them in their homes than it is to us sitting somewhere.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is a workshop, so I invite all our commissioners to speak up. Commissioner Weiss and then Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for bringing up this topic, Commissioner Bernard. I think it's important, though, that, and I think in general, I support trying to keep people in their homes, but I do not support letting the state off the hook. Let's understand how this happened. The state created legislation that allowed people that live in condominiums to avoid creating reserves and properly funding those reserves for decades. All it took was a simple majority of the residents to collect no reserves. That's where it started. So the state was derelict in what they allowed to happen. As well, I mean, there's some responsibility of the property owners as well. They chose to vote and not maintain their homes or maintain the reserves that were going to be needed, which is unfortunate. But for those that did pay those reserves, they were taking care of themselves. So I think we need to approach this, and I appreciate everybody's pragmatism, but I know down in Broward, they've had similar conversations, I assume in Miami-Dade as well. But it's not just for the local folks to have to shoulder this. The state created this. They need to help fix this. And whether that's through low interest or no interest loan programs so folks can continue to stay in their homes and get the needed repairs. But that's what this special session is about. I don't have a problem with setting aside a small amount of money, but that's going to be a Band-Aid for very few people. I mean, we're seeing assessments of tens of thousands of dollars. In some cases, I've read about hundreds of thousands of dollars on some of these units. So I think it's really important that while we try and the idea of keeping people in their homes, as we all know now, is much less expensive. So the pragmatism of not allowing them to become homeless is the right thing to do, because ultimately it will end up costing more money if they do lose their homes. On the other hand, it's exacerbating an already difficult situation for local governments. And at the same time, we're trying to comply with the state requirements, which are the right thing to do. We shouldn't have people living on the street. It's in this day and age, in this country, in this state, and in this county. But I think we need to approach this. I'd like to wait and see. I don't like to wait and see what the state is planning to do. But if I know we're sending you up, Commissioner Bernard, to try and fix some of these things, and
It's on you.
it's on you. You got to carry this message. But they need to be helping us. Their legislation helped create this. The legislation after the terrible tragedy in Surfside helped additionally to add this on, but we need more help. We're not going to be able to. There's not going to be enough money in Palm Beach County to take care of this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. piggybacking off of Commissioner Weiss, yes, this tragedy that happened in Surfside is potentially going to become an even bigger disaster for many, many thousands of condo owners around the country, state, and in particular Palm Beach County. I think you were right. We probably do have the highest number of condo owners in the state. I know I've talked to so many hundreds of condo owners who are scared to death. Just in my district alone, I've talked to many who have neighbors who have had to sell their condos already because they can't afford to pay these assessments. And I keep hearing that this is a Tallahassee problem. This is a problem that the county alone cannot solve. $1 million fix, $5 million fix, that might help 20 people, 30 people. That money will go fast. When you consider, I've talked to people who have paid $50,000 in condo fees, $30,000, $40,000, over six figures. In some cases, it's frightening for these people to see what has happened to their neighbors, realizing that they have 2.5 months before they have to make a decision on what to do for themselves, whether they sell their condos or try to get another mortgage. And a lot of these folks are on fixed income. Some of them are retirees and don't work. I've been told, I know we have 4 resource centers. I'm curious as to what the capacity is for these centers to hold even more homeless people, these seniors who face the prospects of getting kicked out of their homes. And what do we do with the overflow? What happens to them? Do they move in with their families, with their children? Do they end up on the streets? Are they going to have to worry about being picked up by law enforcement because of HB 1365? Because somebody wants to sue the local city or the county? I don't know. I know Miami-Dade County, I've been told, has a solution, but that requires their own dedicated funding source, a surtax. They are helping their condo owners who have applied for loans to pay these fees to cover the assessments, which are then added back to the tax roll. So the money gets paid back one way or another, but that's a solution we don't have here in Palm Beach County. We can put together a pot of money, whether $5 million, I still think it's, agreed, a Tallahassee problem, whether it's more time created in a special session or during the reorganizational meeting to give these people an opportunity to pay their fees. It requires some kind of fix. I know I'm not smart enough to come up with a solution, but I know Tallahassee, it's their responsibility to come up with a solution. But can you tell me, do we have room to comply with this law in the 4 resources centers, in addition to the hotels that you said we're putting people up in already?
We currently don't have enough shelter beds to house everyone who is unsheltered on the streets, but part of what we'll be sharing today will discuss some of the solutions that will mitigate that to some extent. And we did meet with the Legislative Affairs team, and condo fees was a part of that discussion in terms of policy recommendations that we think will help address this issue here locally.
Ms. Baker, you said the only solution we may have is ad valorem. What does that mean exactly?
Well, again, as I think Commissioner Baxter stated earlier, if depending on how much you want to allocate in a pot of money, it would come from the general fund contingency because we don't have dollars allocated for other, for this particular purpose. But as we all recognize and have read in the newspaper and also heard on the news, we're talking substantial dollars that these individuals will need in order to retain their structure. And so again, extending the time, which is not in our hands, it's in the state's hand, but whatever dollar amount the board tells me, that can come out of general fund contingency. There is a reason to have a decent reserve. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's not, and I'm going to always push for that. But I believe that we could take some dollars out, depending on how much you want to take out, to set up that pot of money. What we would then need to do is go back, determine what the, speak with you individually, come up with a recommendation as to the criteria that may need to be applied. because one person could, a couple of condos, depending on where they're located, could take up most of the funding if depending on how much you allocate.
I think Commissioner Baxter said this past budget, we're putting $50 million into reserves. How much is already into reserves total?
I don't know off the top of my head. I
And-
don't
and
remember, but I can get that answer right quick.
I think if we used every single penny in reserves, we wouldn't be able to help all the people just in my district alone who face the prospect of getting kicked out of their homes.
That's correct.
$1 million pot, $5 million pot, I don't know how many people that's going to help, but it seems like a drop in the bucket. All right, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Woodward, and then Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. Sobering morning. To go back to talking about this pot of money, the first question that I wrote down was, do we have any idea how much money right now all the condos in this county are being assessed and reserved dollars? Do we have even a...
No, we don't.
Yeah, there's no way for us to know this. So, and if we were to put some money aside from this, the only way I could come close to supporting it was it would have to be some sort of a loan. Are we allowed to do something like that with funds that come out of ad valorem? If we were to create a pot of money?
If you give us direction to research this and bring it back, that will give us time to work with legal and make also work on criteria so that we can bring something back for your consideration.
Okay, because, those funds come from all the property taxes in the county. So if we're going to take property taxes from some of our property owners and give it to other property owners so that they can stay in their homes, the only way I see that could be justified is if it's a loan. It has to be paid back. I don't see us being able to just grant that money out and it go into a reserve pot for a condominium. I mean, we're taking it from our reserves, putting it into a condo reserves. Or if it's to pay for an assessment, and even still, we're going to reserves. We need help from Tallahassee on extending the time on this, giving them, we know we have a number of condos that have had some large assessments and they have reserves. If, Tallahassee, when you get there, Commissioner Bernard, I know that you can lead the charge on this.
The
but
whole thing.
It's, it's more time. This is daunting for us, and I'm sure there's a number of other counties that have the exact same situation, to have their residents being hit with assessments and reserves. And if there's been decades where this hasn't been done, there's people probably bought into these condos not even having a full understanding of what that was. And they're like, yeah, no, we don't need to put extra money in it. This building's perfect. So this is a big ask. And if we're going to move forward, I would request that you come back with us with some criteria, and it would have to be a loan. I can't see giving taxpayer property tax money to go into condo reserves. So,
May I ask our staff, we need statistics. You do a point in time, Dr. Green, where you know how many people we have living in the streets as of January of this year. What we need to do is two things. One, we need to know how many folks are almost homeless because of the high rate of assessments that they are being required to meet before they lose their home. And second, we need to have a plan for Tallahassee. We wrote already a letter, and the governor came back and said he's going to have a special session. We need to put in that letter how many condominiums we have in this county that do not have sufficient reserves in order to meet the requirements of having their structural issues addressed, which is also very important. But we need to have the statistics for Palm Beach County, and then we need to have a remedy that we'll send up with we need to have a meeting to send it to our legislators, that's their job, to be sure that we have the special session soon, not next March, soon, and that these issues need to be addressed by the state government so that we don't have more than 2,126 people homeless. And many of these folks are seniors. And this is what we should do. All right, I'm going to recognize Commissioner Baxter and then Commissioner Bernard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What are the minimum and maximum amounts of assessments that we've heard?
Oh, you can't. That's,
We don't have that information.
you can't.
Yeah, it's not public information. We don't have that information at this point.
Again, so that's kind of where I was going with this. We don't have the information on how many people we could help, who doesn't help. So to the mayor's point, I would like to put some research into this and see what we can find out as far as that is concerned. It might not be public, but I bet people that need help would be more than willing to share that information. Also, I would like to point out that, I do agree that we do need help from Tallahassee. I do agree that condo owners probably should have maybe planned a little better for the future. But at the end of the day, blaming people isn't going to solve the problem, and it isn't going to help the people who didn't participate in some of those decisions to help stay in their homes. So I don't agree with waiting until Tallahassee does something before we step up. That we shouldn't be dragging our feet. I think we should be proactive. We shouldn't just sit back and wait for somebody else to solve our problems. I would like to see us start the process of putting something together. I do agree that I like the idea of low interest loans. I would not agree to maybe just setting a max amount per person too, and then anything above and beyond that be a low interest loan, so that those taxpayer dollars are paid back, so that we can also help the most amount of people. If we are going to do that, I'd like to see what staff can bring back to us in setting up some parameters around the dollars, and to ask if we need to set that specific dollar amount today, or if you'd like to bring us a figure back. Administrator Baker, would you want us to choose, or would you like to bring back to us some figures and how that looks?
It would be
Anywhere
helpful
between
if
the
you
1 and
choose.
5.
It'll be helpful if you choose. If you tell me 5 max, then we'll deal with the 5 max.
Not necessarily moving forward with the 5 max, but let's.
No, bringing everything back
that's
to you in a
the
package.
possible, top end of this spectrum.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
And maybe we'll lower that at a later date, but I just want to see how many people we can help stay in their homes, because at the end of the day, I think that's the goal. Let's not lose sight of there are people, involved in this, and, it's really easy to just stand at a distance and say it's not my problem, but this is somebody's mother, father, grandparents. This isn't just, I can't express enough how important it is to try to keep people in their homes, especially when we say, oh, it took a majority of the association to vote on something. A lot of people don't even get involved. And so now they're forced in a bad situation because other people made decisions for them. And should that, we aren't giving the money back to residents from reserves if we don't use them. They're sitting in a bank account, basically, not helping. So we're talking about helping people stay in their homes here. So, and we do have, last year we put almost 80 million in reserves. This year we're putting another 50 million in reserves. And we have a total of over $4 billion in reserves in Palm Beach County between all the departments. So we're not talking about hurting our reserve dollars either. We are talking about people and residents. And that should be our focus. So thank you.
Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So I just want to thank staff, because I know that they will be able to create the criterias and, to make it as a low interest loan structure that will be paid back to us. And so I think that this is a great start. And with the $5 million, at least we know that we are going to be able to help some of the residents. And yes, we want Tallahassee to act, but whether they act or not, some of our residents still need assistance, and we'll get the chance to at least make that decision. And if Tallahassee act and we don't have to use those funds, then, we won't need to use them. But I think this is a great start. Thank you.
Okay. You can go ahead and let's continue on. Dr. Green, I think it was your presentation.
Will do.
Thank you.
All right, so looking at our continuum of care by the numbers, and these figures don't encompass all of the services offered within the continuum, but Palm Beach County supports thousands of individuals through various programs, many with successful outcomes. And local businesses contribute to the Homeless Coalition, and cities like West Palm and Delray have deployed outreach teams to support initiatives. We have the Sheriff's Office and several law enforcement agencies that assist with outreach efforts, and the Housing and Homeless and Housing Alliance collaborates with a number of faith-based entities and healthcare providers, such as the Healthcare District and Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network, to support our unhoused residents. So in response to HB 1365, we really developed 5 key focus areas. And subsequent slides will explore our efforts to prevent homelessness, enhance public awareness, increase the availability of temporary and permanent housing, improve coordination within the system of care, and leverage technology for a better service delivery. A little bit more about prevention. Approximately 65% of individuals encountered during the last PIT count reported experiencing homelessness for the first time, making prevention a top priority. We're moving upstream by providing rental assistance and housing stability supports to prevent evictions before they reach the courts. And then we have collaborations with the Legal Aid Society and Florida Rural Legal Services that are aimed at resolving eviction cases before the writs of possessions are issued. The Homeless Advisory Board and Homeless and Housing Alliance have developed some policy recommendations to mitigate evictions and prevent homelessness. And again, we met with the Legislative Affairs team several weeks ago and went over some of those recommendations. And we're also going to continue to work with them to hopefully get them passed at a local, state, and federal level. And strategies to address the loss of affordability in units are particularly crucial for seniors and disabled residents who are on fixed incomes, because we're estimating that over the next 5 years or so, over 1,000 units may lose their affordability because the 30-year restriction or time frame will expire, and that is for our seniors. So in addition to the condo fees, we have that to address hopefully as well. As far as the public awareness campaign goes, developing a comprehensive public awareness campaign is essential to educate the community about HB 1365, as we previously mentioned. So our strategy will include utilizing various media forms to raise awareness and dispel myths surrounding the legislation. We're creating a website with a fact sheet and frequently asked questions to provide stakeholders with clear information about HB 1365. We're collaborating with public affairs to implement this campaign, which includes marketing materials, signage in public area, and so Tammy is holding up one of the signs that has been developed that we'll use to educate and raise awareness about this issue. And so this will be placed strategically in areas where homelessness is more prevalent. We're also looking to train county employees, such as like code compliance officers, library staff, and others, rangers, others that interface with unhoused individuals. And this training won't just be internally, we're extending it to external partners as well, like healthcare providers, law enforcement, municipal leaders, businesses, faith-based organizations, and other service providers. It'll play a critical role in raising awareness about this legislation and the collective responsibility our community has to address this issue. It's really vital for everyone to understand that homelessness is not solely a government issue. It requires a united community effort. And so now I'm going to pass it over to Wendy Tippett, who will review some of the history of homelessness in Palm Beach County and how we've looked to address it.
Good morning. I'm so old, I remember all of this. So what is the history of homelessness in Palm Beach County government? Palm Beach County nonprofit first received a demonstration grant from HUD in 1992. Was Adopt a Family. It was a 4-year demonstration grant, and out of that, the HUD COC grants were formed. Palm Beach County got involved under the leadership of Rebecca Gregory in I know, look, you remember too.
We're all that old.
In 1996. And at the same time, the homeless outreach team was born, which had never been done in Palm Beach County. As homelessness continued to grow, so did the role of government, of Palm Beach County government. The county took on the collaborative applicant role for the continuum of care and the responsibilities of the continuum of care, including the HMIS data lead, the creation of the 10-year plan to end homelessness, and the opening of the Senator Philip D. Lewis Homeless Center. In 2016, the county had done away with the use of ineffective and expensive halfway houses. That was our solution at that time, was to put people in halfway houses to get them off the street. Very expensive model and very ineffective. Next slide. Okay, also in 2016, the county acquired the only family shelter in Palm Beach County, which was program REACH. We were very fortunate in that we, part of my notes printed out and part of my notes didn't, so I'm winging this. So bear with me. I lost my spot, I'm so sorry.
2017.
We were also very fortunate in 2017 to be picked as a national participant in the 100-Day Challenge to End Youth Homelessness. It was a really tough program to pull off, but through the Continuum of Care, the Homeless and Housing Advisory Board, and the HHA, we managed to serve 121 youth, house 121 youth in 100 days. We continued it into year 2, and another 204 folks were served. And youth in HUD's world is 18 to 24, with or without children. By 2018, the 10 to end, or the 10-year plan to end homelessness, was winding down. We'd met every one of the goals with the exception of putting 2,000 units of housing online every year. So we went back to the drawing board, created a new plan, which you've seen, which is leading the way home. Also during this time in 2019, things really began to pick up, and we received a HUD demonstration grant from for ending youth homelessness through HUD. We launched a call center the next year with 2 different numbers. One is CSD WILL, which is for prevention, and the other is HHA WILL, which is for homelessness. Also during that time, which was right at the beginning of COVID, we saw Tent City pop up in John Prince Park. And it grew and it grew and it grew, and it took the whole community to serve Tent City, to make sure that that was didn't get out of hand, so to speak. I know people think it was already out of hand, Ms. Baker. No, I'm just kidding. But we managed to move all of those folks into the Annex Center out in the Western community, Fairgrounds Road facility at the Annex, until we could build the Housing Resource Center 2, which we were opened this year, actually, and closed the Annex down. We went from 125 beds in the Annex to about 65, 70 beds in the new facility. But we had agreed that we would shut down the Annex when we built that facility, and that facility was returned back to PBSO. Next slide. Oh, you've got next slide. 23 and 24 is a blur. Lots and lots of things happened in 23, 24. Street medicine came to Palm Beach County. We engaged Healthcare for the Homeless. We formed a partnership with Integrated Healthcare to provide that medical personnel on the street. The healthcare district joined the table with the HHA and partnered to put healthcare buses, which they now have 5, all around the community in Palm Beach County. Over the last 25 years that I've been doing this, the amount of partnerships that have been formed, when I started this way back when, housing authorities were not at the table, healthcare wasn't at the table, law enforcement wasn't at the table. We were kind of lone wolves, and Palm Beach County joined. I was with a nonprofit at that time, joined the nonprofit world and saying every resident has the right to be housed. I'm really proud to say, and it's really renewed my spirit of community and ending the homeless crisis with the amount of partners that have come to the table now. Healthcare, sheriff's office, housing authorities, mental health providers. We all know we can't do it alone, and we're very grateful for your continued support. But 2004, we also started a low acuity project for residents who have low barriers who often aren't served through the emergency shelters. The Parks to Work program expanded, and the Lord's Place took on part of Parks to Work and expanded it through a culinary training program. We have expanded mental health services into every facility that we have. And again, the 74-bed homeless resource center, the Housing Resource Center, opened behind the Mid-County Senior Center in Lake Worth. I only have one more slide, guys. So everybody wants to know, where's the affordable housing? When are we buying more? When are we building more? What are we doing, especially in response to the House bill? We are attempting to maximize the Salvation Army beds. Many of you will remember the Salvation Army when they moved from Westgate to Military Trail. And that facility has gone through a lot of changes over the years, but it's a pretty empty facility right now, and we are going to be able to access that in partnership with the Salvation Army. We've expanded partnerships with hotels. We don't want to be in the hotel business, but nonprofits are better equipped to handle that. We are looking at increasing the capacity at the Lewis Center, and we're working with Palm Beach County Housing Authority to finish off and hopefully open by the end of October the 17 cottage homes. And I encourage you, if you haven't been by them, please go by them. They're very colorful. Have you seen them? Mm-hmm. No? They're very nice. And we are trying to expand our partnership in the recovery communities as well, especially because one of their main goals is housing. So I am going to pass this on to Taruna, who's going to take us home.
You still have,
You still have a couple more.
couple of.
Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
No, you can do it.
Anybody have any
Thank you.
questions?
I did have a question. Thank
ma'am.
you. You had in 2008, there was the 10-year plan to end homelessness.
Yes, ma'am.
I was hoping you could tell me a little more about it, because I know we have the chart on page slide 7 that shows where we were in our point in time count. And 10 years later, it was about a 40% reduction. And it's been creeping up ever since that 10 years passed. So could you?
Yeah, so the 10-year plan was created by the group of nonprofits that had been serving the homeless community for a very long time, really since 1990. When the market tanked, well, it started before the market tanked in 2008. So because the market was so good, nobody could find housing. It was almost the same scenario as it is today. We had over, I believe it was 14,000 condos converted from rental to home ownership at that point. So we lost 17,000 rentals at that point in '08 or '07. '08, the market tanked and nobody moved. So the Homeless and Housing Alliance and the Homeless Advisory Board really came to fruition then. The Homeless Advisory Board at that time only had folks sit on it that were either philanthropists, funders, major decision makers, and it was headed by former Commissioner Jeff Koons. And their sole responsibility was to raise enough money to start building housing in our community. But when the market tanked, so did that effort, because there wasn't any housing. I mean, conversions had happened, people were hotbedding. But within those goals, it was really basic things like begin coordinated entry, begin case conferencing, increase the faith-based community, increase our partnerships, begin an advocacy committee. So we met all of those goals, and it moved the continuum of care to where it is today. You'll see the money from HUD has also increased. We wrote another plan after that plan was over to really reflect where we were 10 years later. And we celebrated the end of the 10-year plan and the creation of the new one because I think there were like 54 steps, and we met all of them but the one. So I think everybody should kind of congratulate themselves on that feat. Just because I want to be clear, just because our point in time count says we have 2,100 people on the street and in shelter, that is one snapshot of 24 hours. Just one day. Now, if you ask Officer Mackey, who does homeless street outreach for PBSO, he's going to tell you that number is, Jim? Yeah, like 8,000. He's going to tell you, because he's pulled the data from PBSO, and so he has a much different philosophy. But so much has changed since 2008. Now the rents have increased. Our fair market rent for this year went down with HUD. I don't know how, but it did. People can work, even our shared housing programs. They can't work anymore because you take two people that are disabled that get $900 a month in Social Security, and you rent a two-bedroom apartment, which is now about $2,800 a month. The math doesn't work anymore. It used to. So we really struggle with, as rents continue to escalate and the rental market continues to shrink, where do people live that mow our lawns, do our golf courses, valet your cars?
I'm very curious, though, what was successful in the first 10-year plan?
I can send all that to you. We did a report.
If you could put the
Excuse
slide
me,
up
just 1 second. Let
for
Commissioner
page
Barnett.
11, just because it shows there was success. And I know I lived in two of those apartments that went to condo and we couldn't afford to buy them. So I know I lived through that. But you had success there. So some of your 50 whatever things that worked, did we stop doing some of those things? Did we call it mission accomplished and we moved on to something else? No. Because it was working. And yes, we've had a couple of years of inflation now. There's no question. Everybody is feeling that. But you had success. And I would like to know what was successful in the first 10-year plan that's not being successful now.
I think a lot of it had to do with the infrastructure that was developed and the supports that were developed in the county. We brought on the Lewis Center in 2012, which is a way to begin to shelter individuals, and we continue to work with our community partners to have a more coordinated system of care. We expanded partnerships with our faith-based community, with our business community, with the Smart Landlord campaign, and created more affordable housing there. And so all of those things were, I think, helpful in addressing homelessness and bringing it down. Even though it fluctuated here and there, it was helpful. And then in 2020, after COVID, we saw the prices, just jump really, really significantly. And it certainly, from what we can see, has had its toll on people's ability to maintain housing, even with the loss of jobs and not recovering fully from that pandemic. So that's my assessment.
One other thing to note is that from 2020 to 2022, there was moratoriums on evictions. And that also brought the numbers down that because of COVID, people were not, could not be evicted when they were not paying their rents. That has expired, and after that expired, we're seeing the numbers increase again.
Commissioner Barnett and then Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. Going back to point in time, Wendy?
Yes.
This past year, I had the opportunity to participate in my first point in time count. We rode along with PBSO, including my staff, and we were escorted by your cousin, Commissioner Baxter. He's a really cool guy. Huh?
It's my uncle.
Your uncle,
Cousin.
I'm sorry. You said that the count revealed 2,100 homeless in the county. That's up from 1,855, I think, representing a 14.6% increase in homelessness from last year to this year. But you said that's just an estimate, a snapshot. Do you have any idea, correlating that count with the data you have, what the actual numbers might be? And I know you said your philosophy on counting differs from Mackey's, Deputy Mackey's, and PBSO.
HUD used to allow us to use a 2.5 multiplier, so I have always stuck in my head with a 2.5 multiplier.
So 2,100 times 2.5, okay, which still falls short of deputies' estimates. Does the count, I remember when we went out and counted people, we were counting them on the streets, behind buildings, next to dumpsters, loitering in front of 7-Elevens and convenience stores. Does that not include people sleeping in cars?
It does.
It did? Okay. Or people couch surfing?
No.
Living with relatives?
No.
So the number is just an estimate, could be a lot higher. And you think it could be higher than the 40, whatever, 2.5 times 2,100 that they counted?
Yeah, I don't. We don't include couch surfers because it's not a definition that we can use with HUD, so we don't use couch surfers.
Okay, they are housed, I guess, technically, but still homeless. All right. Appreciate it. I just want one more question. You mentioned the cottages that are opening. Are those the ones at Military Trail, Prosperity College? I pass them every day.
Do you?
Yeah, that location is about a quarter of a mile north of where I live.
Okay.
They are pretty and colorful.
They are very colorful.
Do you have any idea of when the ribbon cutting will take place?
The end of the month
End of the
is
month.
what we're
October
hoping for.
31st.
In October.
Yes.
They
At
look
the end
like
of October. I'm sorry.
they look like, I know some developers build housing out of shipping containers. These aren't shipping containers? They look like it, but still, they look really nice.
We are partnering with the West Palm Beach Palm Beach County Housing Authority.
West Palm
Beach, okay. But we're also partnering with Palm Beach County Housing Authority on the shipping containers.
That is on 45th Street, Legacy at 45th
So we
Street.
are branching out and being creative, working with our partners. And so this will be, I think, our first development, working with the Palm Beach County Housing Authority with the shipping containers.
Okay, thank you, Bert. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to ask Deputy Mackey to join us. Clarify a few things. We keep hearing your name.
As he's coming up, the partnership that we received from PBSO and their homeless outreach team has really been remarkable. We work hand in hand, so.
You're beating me to it and stealing my words. I'm going to thank him first for his amazing service and branching and bringing us together between the Sheriff's Department and the county. Irreplaceable and amazing, Deputy Mackey. So thank you for everything you do. And to Commissioner Barnett's point, yes, you and my uncle have partnered together at the Sheriff's Office and did even a tour with myself to highlight a few of the issues and a few of the areas. So I thank you for that. It makes us better informed when we can see it firsthand. So that's irreplaceable. And thank you again. But getting down to the questions, it was mentioned the point in time count was a little over 2,000. Mm-hmm. Would you say that number is high, low, accurate?
Per HUD standard, and thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me this opportunity. Per HUD standards, what the community services have to go by is very strict what the definition of homelessness is, whereas our definition of homelessness varies extensively compared to HUD's. So I would not say that 2,126 is accurate. I would say it's a lot more. Off of the HUD standards, we have the McKinney-Vento, which puts couch surfing and some different things in there, and they're close to 6,000, I think, this year.
And is that because they don't have a permanent place of their own?
That's the way it's stated in McKinney-Vento.
Okay. And my next question was back to one of the what I had referenced earlier. How much in resources do we spend per homeless person annually in this county if they do not have a place to live?
If Dr. Green, correct me if I'm wrong, between $35,000 and $45,000 in resources
Per year?
Per year, per person.
Per person.
For chronically homeless individuals.
Chronically, yes, the ones you see on the street corners. We also have logged 3,007 calls in our dispatch center, just reference homelessness.
And so that's why I stress keeping people in their homes, and the fiscal impact of allowing them to then become homeless is much greater. And so I thank you for the information. I thank you for your service, helping our residents, and really branching us with the Sheriff's Department.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, sir. You're excused. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. Just for my own clarification, when you say chronically homeless, can you tell me what that means?
Yeah, so they're homeless for 4 or more times within a span of 12 months, or they've been on the street for a long period of time. What research has shown is that, a year or more. What research has shown is that, and we did have a significant increase in the number of chronically homeless individuals this time. I think it was the largest percentage out of all of the groups that we measure. And research has shown that they're consistently interfacing with the emergency rooms, with our jail system and other services, and it's very costly. Research has also shown that if you can just house those individuals, then the number of interfaces between those systems go down pretty dramatically, around 65%. And so there's a tremendous cost savings, return on investment by just simply housing the chronically homeless individuals.
And do we have the count of the chronically homeless?
We do have it in our point in time count data. I don't have the exact number. I believe it was around 500 or so, if I can recall. Out of the 1,583, I believe about 500 of those were considered chronically homeless.
So about a third?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Dr. Green?
All right.
Tammy, let's proceed.
We're going to go over a couple of more slides. It's really important to note that the key to breaking the cycle of homelessness has to be housing. We have to figure out a way to increase the availability of temporary and permanent housing. And so we're looking at options, looking at motels and hotels that can be acquired and turned into single-room occupancies. There's one in Belglade that the board has already approved, and we're working on that. There are a couple of more that are in the works. You'll hear about that in the future. Also, the Smart Landlord campaign. We're now sponsoring quarterly landlord campaigns, and we had one last week that was very well attended. Property owners, they come, they learn about our homeless system, they learn about ways that they can get involved in the various programs, and we've seen a lot of success from that, and we're going to continue to do that moving forward, around 3 or 4 times a year. Also, really getting our faith-based groups involved, especially those who have land. There are a lot of churches with a lot of land, and to the extent that we can help facilitate their awareness and understanding about how to, build affordable housing on that property, and and connect them to resources to help do that, we want to do it. And so you'll see that on October the 19th, we're bringing our faith-based community together to discuss that issue, and again on October the 9th, and that is facilitated from the Faith in Action group for Palm Beach County. We also want to continue to enhance our collaboration with the housing authorities, which has been good, and Habitat for Humanity. We want to make sure that as new affordable units come online, and those set-aside units, we have direct access to them through referral rights. That's going to be a key component. And look at assisted living facilities and others, and expand our partnerships with them, because we have a lot of individuals who are not, they can't be on their own, and they're not going to be appropriate for housing. And then, of course, the development of cottage homes, more cottage homes, looking at scattered sites. Of course, Mayor, we've been out with you looking at sites and looking at a number of options, had a number of presentations and concepts that we're exploring to get more temporary and permanent housing online through the use of cottage homes. And this just gives an overview of other ways that we are trying to increase availability of temporary and permanent housing. Room sharing, probably about 70% of the people that we place are doing room sharing, meaning they're sharing rooms with other individuals who are unhoused. Relocation to support systems within the county and outside of the county is key, that whole diversion strategy. Making sure that we have a more seamless process, moving people into treatment facilities so they can get the help they need, and then working with them as they transition out to help stabilize them. We're pushing for more medical respite beds for those individuals who have medical needs, can't be on the streets. It's very costly, as we mentioned. Placement into sober homes, so to enhance our partnership with the managing entities, Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network, to make sure that if they're unhoused and they have mental health and substance use disorders, we want to make sure that they can possibly go into those transition homes and then into a permanent setting. We have our current housing system and partners that we work with, and there are just a number of other strategies that we're looking at to increase the availability of temporary and permanent housing here in the county. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Taruna, and she's going to share some other strategies around enhancing coordination and leveraging technology to improve our system.
Thank you, James. Good morning. So the goal is to enhance coordination between all the system partners. Ending homelessness requires housing combined with types of services supported by various programs. The delivery of treatment and services to persons experiencing homelessness are included in the activities of many partners who are today in this room. And you will hear more from Ezra about some of the recommendations from the task force for addressing homelessness. In addition to this enhanced coordination, we are also working very closely with school board, especially with McKinley-Vento families. Our focus is more for the category 1, which is the definition of HUD, the one which we follow for homelessness. We have made a significant progress with school board by adding the consent to their forms that allows us to look at the data, map the data, and prioritize those families. So the one we have a consent from the families, we were able to house more than 90% of those families this year. So definitely this coordination works if all the partners work together. And you know, as you all know, criminal justice involvement among people experiencing homelessness remains a significant problem. We are a community framework for criminal justice, and mental health is one of the enhanced coordination goal for us. We are hoping to have specialized courts to address the needs of persons with mental health, and then smooth transition to the treatment facilities, and then allows us to diversion from the criminal system. So these are the coordination which James and Wendy talked about it, working with the faith-based entities, with health departments, making sure the folks who are on the street, they are document ready. Having them document ready really helps us to get them housed quickly. We have limited shelter beds, so we really want to make sure the people coming in the shelter, we are able to get them housed quickly so that we can get new folks on our shelters. Some of the efforts we have already, like Wendy talked about it, all of these efforts are part of our 10-year plan. And another thing which we have been working very closely is with the career source, making sure the folks we are serving, they do have opportunity for employment, or they have the skills to get employment. Currently, the Lord's Place and career source, they work with our shelter clients. So then as soon as they get in the shelter, we start working with them on the soft skills. So by the time they are housed, we get them employed. So on this slide, some of these pilots has been piloted in last few years. Housing and the lack of access to it has been long been recognized as a critical social determinants of health. Health system really play a significant role in this work, and recently we have implemented a multidisciplinary case conferencing team. That has really helped us to address some of those issues. And this multidisciplinary team is not just the ground level staff and our homeless outreach team. It is staffed by healthcare district leadership team. Dr. Andrick and Dr. Courtney works with us. And then we have been making significant changes in our system to address some of those issues. We are enhancing the mediation, diversion, and then our Travelers Aid program to make sure that access to our traveler aids is available, and then get those access to the client really quickly, so that if we are able to identify a family who can take them, we want to make sure that we are addressing that quickly. We have also enhanced our partnership with 211. That transportation has been identified as a significant barriers for years. Now we do have a lift program. All of our homeless outreach providers and our staff has access to it, so that clients can get to their doctor appointments or to any other needs they have through our 211, and that service is also now 24/7. We have expanded our Parks to Work program. We saw a lot of success when we did years ago Parks to Work with Palm Beach County Parks Department. Now we have expanded with Lord's Place, and we are seeing some good results with that program as well. Like you saw in one of those slides, that we saw the newly homeless has been increased in our last point in time. So we have been putting a lot of emphasis on making sure that there are funding available and program available for the folks who are low in the acuity. HUD dollars restricts us because of the prioritization scale, but we have been very creative and using the ERAP funding. So some of those ERAP funding is not just going for the rental program, it's also going towards housing the folks who are newly homeless, so that currently they're homeless is a huge barrier, but their barriers are still low compared to the folks who are on the high acuity. So we have Adopt a Family, our own division of human services staff, and Vita Nova partnering us on this pilot with us. And then we are also working with our faith communities to develop a parking lot initiative to address some of the HB 1365 challenges. One of the goal which we are doing is leveraging technology. So we have enhanced our partnership with affordablehousing.com. So now we have a real-time bridge with our system for housing inventory. So that really allows our housing specialists to focus on placing folks, building up a relationship with the landlords. We are hoping to come up with some landlord incentive in next few months. Affordablehousing.com is very interested in working with us to come up with some incentives to get more landlords in this work. We are enhancing our homeless management system. We have recently launched a real-time GIS with our HUD teams. Every day we are able to see how many clients they are doing the outreach, what sites they are, and then we are working with those other partners to address some of those challenges. Expanding the call center staffing to 24/7. So currently we do have our homeless line is 24/7, and it's managed by Goodwill Industries after 5 p.m. and over the weekends. We have now standby teams with our department who answer some of those calls that requires our staff to be on the streets working with the clients. We have enhanced our resource and referral portal. Healthcare district is now part of our resource and referral portal. That's a huge success for us to having partners who provides healthcare in this system. And then we have also integrated all of our permanent supportive housing and emergency sheltering bed in our dashboards. All those dashboards are available to all the housing partners through our Oscars and county SharePoint site. We are continue our work with Palm Beach County School District to make sure that we have an integrated homeless dashboard. School board just created a dashboard for McKinley-Vento clients, and we are trying to map with with HMIS to match who are those clients. And like I mentioned, that we are able to successfully house some of those families, and we want to demonstrate this coordination. I will let Ezra take on the next slide about the task force for the recommendations from HHA.
I think Jennifer will be the presenter. So you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, James.
Sorry, the mayor's gone, the vice mayor's gone, but I have a question.
Okay.
So, sorry, Mayor. Before we get into the next section. That's okay. So, we're talking about, housing, and there's a couple points I'd like to talk about. One is, we're looking at additional housing units, right? And this really is for you, Tammy. I wonder, I know last week at the end of the meeting, we had an item come up that was not budgeted for, potentially to purchase a hotel. I don't believe it's the only one you all are looking at. You're looking at other sites as well. But for the folks I know in my district, we have heard from people that, and can you talk about what and how you would utilize such, if you had a facility like that, how you would utilize that?
Well, this is a perfect opportunity. We actually do have an update for the board on that, if Ismay could come up. But as far as how it could be utilized, it would really depend on the unit, where it's located, what transportation is nearby. What we're thinking is to be able to utilize it for single room occupancy. So that is a great solution for those, for seniors is one of the areas where single room occupancy, where there's a little kitchenette, there's a individual restroom, but then there's also surrounding support services. We were not really looking at the options, and I think it may have been misconstrued a little bit. We're not really looking at it as to be another homeless or housing resource center. It's really to have temporary and permanent housing supportive housing options available for the.
Can you
those
explain
needs.
what supportive and what all that means?
Particularly with permanent supportive housing, what we're referring to is individuals who need to have some wraparound services, whether it is assistance with job placements or being able to navigate social service programs, but having those resources available on site, but have a permanent place to live, not just a temporary shelter like our housing resource centers. We would probably be taking individuals who have been able to make it through our resource centers and are stabilized with whatever their needs may be at that point, to be able to have more permanent housing going forward.
So just to clarify, there's no, it is not going to be that people were just going, the idea was you're just going to take people off the street and drop them into a place and walk away.
Absolutely not.
And today, and I don't know if you can answer this question, we have a lot of, typically tends to be single moms, but sometimes it's complete families, but it's typically single moms with kids that we are housing. Would they be an option as well would this be an option for them? And how many of them are there that you're currently housing right now in hotels?
Yes, it would be an option. I would have to defer
You guys know how many
to
you
James
have?
as far as how many families are currently being housed.
Yes. So for our program reach, we have 19 units. We have 19 units currently for the families, and all of them are occupied. And then we also have in Glades, Melissa Place, we have right now 15 operational units, and all of them are occupied, and they're all families. And then currently for the hotel, as of this morning, we have 6 families in the hotels. We are also working with Salvation Army, and you will see that contract coming to you for approval. They have 2 units available, so we are planning to use those units as a temporary hotel kind of a thing for our families as needed, instead of using traditional hotels.
But we also do a lot of partnering with Adopt a Family, who helps not only that immediate need, but planning and assisting the families on a longer-term basis.
Okay. Also, in thinking about some of the other barriers, and in the cottage homes, we've talked a little bit about, to replicate them is probably not, it's not feasible based on what those cost, and to do it at any kind of scale. What other thoughts and ideas? I know I have talked to people and I think you and I have talked about this, where you have a shared, everybody has their own bedroom and potentially their own bathroom in some cases, but they share a kitchen or some other common areas, and those kinds of solutions. We can't keep trying to build the same things the same way and at these costs. Those cottages, they were over $500,000 each,
And we are exploring all of those other options right now. We have had conversations with some developers who are proposing the shared housing options, where it would be the restroom and a small kitchenette, but then more shared spaces. Those are also perfect opportunities to be able to have the wraparound services at the same location. We've looked at some of the pre-constructed units. Dr. Green and I went on a visit last week, and that is one of the options that's being explored in various places in Florida right now, where multiple units could be placed on a smaller parcel of land. And then there would also be some joint services on those parcels. This is all going to take time, but we're not leaving any stone unturned right now in looking at the various options that are available and pursuing those.
Just a couple more things. One is, last week, when I attended the Florida Association of Counties conference in Pensacola, as we were driving out to the air base there, I saw manufactured homes. They were not mobile homes. They were manufactured homes, but they were small. And, is that something you all are looking at? And because it seemed like a really good option. I've looked into the cost of them. They're not $500,000 to do them. They're $100,000 or $150,000.
And that was what I was referring to with the prefabricated ones. The units we looked at last week are about 65,000 delivered. We'd have to have the land, and that's where the partnerships are really going to come in as well, is where others have land available to be able to construct some of these units. But yes, they can be put up very quickly. We need to make sure that they're located in areas where the infrastructure is already present, because one of the significant costs is if you put things too far out and they don't have the infrastructure in place, we're spending more than that unit would cost just on having the infrastructure. So those are factors that are being considered in locating.
And then just a shout out, I had one church in our district has already moved through the process and is now in the permitting process for building housing on their site. I've got another church that is working through the process. So our faith-based community, at least a couple of them have stepped forward. I like the idea of you going out and trying to explain to them how they might be able to do this and how it helps them with their mission of serving, as well as providing potential revenue stream to keep them viable and sustainable for the future. So both very important topics. So thank you, and thanks for answering my questions. Sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner Weiss. I'd like to chime in because I think that we need to thank Dr. Green and Tammy for all that you've done. This is, and I'm going to address my fellow colleagues now, this is an issue that I got involved with once I read 1365. Also, let us note, the U.S. Supreme Court case came down, Lands Grant versus Oregon, which for the first time in U.S. history has made homelessness a crime. Homelessness a crime. So we as a county are faced with some daunting challenges. Not impossible, but we can face it. And you've done a great job, all of you in this staff. But what has happened is this. This is not just Palm Beach. This is not just Florida. This is the entire country. Go to any great American city, and you'll find people sleeping under bridges, families huddled in cars. This is an issue. It's a crisis. So a number of research institutes, our great universities, Yale is one of them and Harvard, came out with a research project. How do you cure homelessness? Hell, we've tried. We've done everything here. And we've tried very hard for 20 years. And so has other cities, great American cities. So this idea of housing first is the policy, and you've mentioned it. Our staff is looking at it. Housing first is a policy that cures the crisis of homelessness. And what it says is put the homeless person and give them the dignity of a house. Well, that's nice to say. How do you find these houses? So what they have created, and this doesn't start here in Palm Beach. It's going on right now in Seattle, Washington, and other great cities, Portland, Oregon, and also in the city of Orlando here in the state of Florida. is they are building mini cottages. And to many of your point, how much does it cost to the taxpayer? Well, this is what it comes down to. A mini house or mini cottage actually can be ordered on Amazon today. It can. It's a kit. It's a housing kit. It costs $14,000 to put it together. Then when you add sewage, water, electrical, the cost for that mini cottage comes to about $30,000 to $40,000. So these mini cottages are being built throughout the country. And we have a number of companies that have come forward, and they're ready for us to review them, and you already have a number of them, to begin building these mini cottages that will be surrounded by our social services. Our social services, and we have many. Our churches, which we have all mentioned, Commissioner Weiss mentioned, as well as other social services here, will surround these mini cottages with services that will allow them to get out of the crisis. These mini cottages are economically feasible. They can cost taxpayers nothing. If we use federal funds and distressed properties that have already been located throughout the county. They will not be put in residential areas, they'll be in commercial and industrial areas. They are environmentally sustainable and efficient. They will meet Florida's toughest building codes and be resistant to our hurricanes as well as our climate change. But the most important thing is it provides a space in which the homeless can access, and it's their little place. Now, I thought that what a homeless person really wants is food, or religion, or a couple of dollars. We've all done this. But what they really, really want, according to this study, and according to many homeless who are now in these mini cottages, is they want security from being beaten up and their items being stolen. They need that key to the front door that gives them that security. And I have so many anecdotes of folks who are living in these mini cottages today in Seattle and Portland and now in the city of Orlando. So I want to thank Dr. Green and Tammy Fields. We went out last Friday, public-private partnerships. We went with some private companies that are willing to begin to construct these mini cottages. While we were looking at Ms. Baker, it was interesting, we were looking at a land, it was about 1.5 acres, fallow land. 5 or 6 homeless folks came up looking for some kind of help. They're here, and we need to take care of them in a way that will not cost the taxpayers money and that will be environmentally feasible. We are also on 45th Street. We have a port here in Palm Beach, and there's companies here in Palm Beach County that will reuse shipping containers. We have them at the port, so that that can also be very efficient and certainly impenetratable to our climate. If a shipping container can go from one ocean through the other, they can certainly take Florida's climate changes and our hurricanes. So I want to thank our staff particularly, and Ms. Baker for being open to this new policy of housing first. I know that you'll be going to Tampa to be talking to them, our staff will, to review what they are doing. I know the city of Orlando has invited us there as well to see how it works here in the state of Florida. So I look forward to working this crisis through and making sure that we can get a mini cottage for everybody that we can. And thank you so much, staff, for that. So are there any other, this is a workshop. Are there any questions or comments for staff? Ms. Baker.
You gave us, the board gave us approval to begin negotiations on a hotel site. And I'd like for Dr. Isami Ayala Calaza, to come up and give you a very positive update and then receive some direction from you after her update.
Okay, good
You're
morning.
recognized, Doctor.
Good morning. Isami Ayala, Director of Facilities Development and Operations and Assistant County Administrator. Following the direction we received from the board last week, we engaged in negotiations with the owner. Okay, we have been able to reach an agreement as to what we can recommend to the board as it relates to the purchase price for the property. Just as a refresher, the owner was asking for approximately $16 million. Our appraisals came back at approximately $14 million. We have been able to negotiate a middle price point of $15.15 million. As it relates to the acquisition of the property itself, that is the purchase price that we can certainly, as staff, recommend to the board and bring back a purchase agreement. We have, however, encountered an additional consideration that was not on the radar initially, which is that the hotel is currently operating under a brand name, a hotel, right, a franchise, and the seller has asked for the county to absorb a significant portion of the cost to release that franchise agreement. That will be approximately $1.7 million on top of the value to acquire the property. And hence why we're standing in front of the board again, asking for direction. From the real estate perspective, the property itself is something that staff can certainly recommend. Paying for a release of a franchise fee is something new in the type of transactions that we typically bring to this board, and therefore we will appreciate direction in order to know if we are to continue with conversations with the seller or not.
Commissioner Weiss.
So explain what would be the required payment to the franchisee if we don't get the release?
We couldn't use it for non-hotel purposes because it's currently under a brand name, right? It's a La Quinta. So to be able to use it for the purposes we need, a release will need to be paid, and that's under contract.
So why don't we just go to La Quinta or whoever owns them and let them know what we would like to do with it? And I'm sure they would not want to have their name associated with that.
We're not in contract with them, and it's not our ability. We don't have standing to do so. It's a contract between the owner and the franchise.
Have we approached the owner to see if they would give us that standing?
That's why we're having the conversation as to the release. So
I mean, I would think, so my feeling on it is, no, not pay them.
Okay.
But to get standing, and let's see if we can negotiate with La Quinta. There's no, or they're, I'm sure they're part of a bigger brand, and see if we can get them to release it just out of the public good.
Understood. We can certainly explore that conversation. I cannot represent.
I can't sit here with the rest of, and I don't know where the rest of the board is, but I can't sit here in good conscience and say, let's give you permission to pursue that when we haven't tried something else.
Understood. Precisely the reason why we need a direction from the board. It's not a topic we encounter on a daily basis. It's a property that is being auctioned as we speak. It actually ends tomorrow, so the opportunity window may close, and that's part of what we needed to disclose to the board. And the director of the Prime Division, Purvi Bugaira, is telling me via written communication that they already approached the owner for a discount, which is why the fee is coming down to 1.7. The fee is actually close to $2 million. So they did offer a discount to us in the process of acquiring, and that's why we will, if the board decides to move forward, be responsible for 1.7.
But I still don't understand why, if you chose not to pay that fee and you left the name on the building and you chose not to accept any reservations, why would you just don't accept any reservations if you own the building?
I will gladly explore the topic. That said, the franchise carries a brand and it's advertised, right, with the potential of obtaining revenue. I'm just going at a conceptual level. So I can envision the owner not wanting to sell when he's not going to be able to make through the contracts he has in place for long term. And I'm saying that is a conceptual level. We will gladly go back and validate it. The franchise fee, the royalty, is paid on a monthly basis, so that will be an additional consideration for operational purposes. So from where we stand, our recommendation to ensure a smooth operation, if the board wants us to pursue this property, will be to acquire the property and then make sure that it is released from any franchise obligations. And that is something that we did ask the owner to cover, and their position was that they could not cover that additional fee because they have it on the market to sell it as a hotel, right? Not to sell it for housing purposes. So from their perspective, they can continue to pursue what they were pursuing. It comes up to us to determine if from the real estate and the opportunity cost, this constitutes a good opportunity to pursue.
Thank you.
Commissioner Woodward?
Thank you. Just so if the property is being auctioned right now, so what happens if it's auctioned? Does the franchise fee go with it?
They are selling the property as a hotel. Our use is the use that deviates. So their scope for selling, if you're selling to someone else that will continue to operate as a hotel, it just transfers, right? And the use continues to be in place. That's the big difference to when you compare it to what the county's intended use will be, which will not be for leisure, for hotel purposes.
Do we know how long the contract is on the franchise?
We do. I don't have that information with me, but it's several years out. And the contract, the value to terminate the contract is calculated on an ongoing basis as to a number of years that have elapsed and the number of years that are pending.
Okay, so
Release.
just so I understand, if it's auctioned, let's just say it were auctioned off for $10 million, the franchise fee would be a part of that?
It will be the determination of the owner, number one, as to how it will be handled, and number two, if to sell. As is the case with any auction, right? At the end, the owner may decide to sell or not.
Okay.
Doctor, I have received a lot of emails from residents in the area that are contrary to what we have asked you to negotiate. Are you privy to any of those, to the residents' outcry about using that hotel as a, we're going to use it not as a homeless shelter, we're going to use it as a what?
Single residency, SROs, the single residency occupancy was what we
Single
were talking.
residence occupancy for low income or for homeless?
Seniors. So seniors, yes. And so these would be permanent housing.
Senior homeless or senior affordable housing?
It would be looking at.
Let me ask Ms. Baker. Ms. Baker, could you articulate to us what exactly, I've got a number of emails questioning this hotel. I didn't think that we're up against a deadline. We have 24 hours to negotiate this. Is that true, Doctor?
It is currently
24 hours?
It is currently under auction. The county, we may decide, the board may very well decide just to keep the course and let the process proceed, and the owner make a determination. They are actively pursuing to sell the property. So yes, there is a level, I'm going to call it an opportunity, urgency of opportunity, if I may.
I'm sorry, could we do this next week after I don't have any information on this. Okay, and I know we gave you authority to begin negotiations, but I didn't know I would have I don't have 24 hours. Could I have 2 or 3 weeks so I could get a little more information as to who's going to occupy, what kind of social services, support services, So what,
Mayor,
Ms. Baker, what are we doing? We have, I'm sorry, if I'm not being pushed 24 hours to spend 15 million plus an additional possibly 1.7 million of taxpayers' money on a hotel that I'm not sure what we are going to be doing with it. And the residents also would like to know. Ms. Baker?
it is our goal not to put people directly off the streets into these units.
So where are they coming from?
They may be coming from one of our resource centers they're already settled, have social services around them. They've gone through our process and they're now ready for a unit. We have a number of seniors, especially with all the other stuff going on with the condos, that we need to be able to put those individuals in specific units. This is not going to be a homeless center. That was not the intent. The intent was to get people already with social services wrapped around them. They're getting stable if they're not already stable, and put them into these units. Seniors would, in my humble opinion, get the first dibs, but we also have families that are in their cars that we can hopefully get out of their car and put into those units as well. It's 114 units that we're talking about. And so when you start to talk about 17 million, I think they come out to roughly
147, 147,000.
almost 150,000 per unit.
$150,000.
And when we
per
talk
unit.
about other units that we're trying to get in, they're 400,000 and 500,000 when you talk about cottages. We believe this is an area that we would like to recommend to the board to seriously consider. When we get in these particular situations, find out properties are available, they go really quick because other hotels are trying to buy them. This was always one of the issues one of the housing resources that the board wanted us to look at. And so this was one, when we found out, we came directly to the board as an add-on to request the board's direction to negotiate. We had already looked at the appraisal. I gave permission because I had authority to look at it, tell me how much is it going to cost. The franchise fee was a little surprise when we got it. But I think most hotels that allow for franchises, you pay that fee, and that's a yearly or monthly fee that you pay. Again, they're auctioning off. The door is open. I know that this is rushed. But this is an opportunity, and it is okay if the board tells us they're not ready to move forward with it. We do believe this is an opportunity. I don't know if we're going to get a better deal.
Commissioner Baxter?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do support negotiating with La Quinta a potential release of that franchise so that it is for a public benefit. But I do not support spending millions of dollars to buy out a franchise. For the amount of units, I think you discussed was 114 to the amount of dollars. I just can't support that. We're spending money on that. And there has to be, I do support our seniors. I do support these families that need a place. But there are lots of options in Palm Beach County. This can't be it. I mean, there are tons of places, other places that could potentially be renovated, bought, and looked at for a fraction of this cost versus buying out a franchise. So, I mean, I do support allowing staff or supporting staff in the ability to negotiate and see if we can get La Quinta to release that franchise. But again, not spending dollars to do that. I guess that's pretty much where I stand. I would also like some more information, to the mayor's point on this. I do feel it was rushed, and I guess time is of the essence, but I would like more information. It doesn't have to necessarily, in my opinion, be a workshop. If the mayor would prefer that, that's great. But I mean, I wouldn't mind if you just met with us individually and had some real information and data to bring back to us in regards to this after maybe some conversations have taken place.
If I may?
Go ahead.
That is okay. I just wanted to make a point, Commissioner and Board, just as general concept, and the administrator mentioned it. When we are dealing with open market, we're just another competitor, right? So our goal is always to come as early as possible and notify the board, but we have also been tasked with keeping an eye on opportunities out there, right? And this is how this one came to be. We identified an opportunity, we were running against the clock, administrator authorized us to bring it to the board and say, here's an opportunity you may want to consider. We will, if this one does not materialize, we will continue to keep our eye on the market. But we're government dealing with the private sector, right? So that property might be of interest to other private entities, and the private owner might be better off selling to a private entity, right? So it's kind of an interesting position when we negotiate on behalf of government, of what we are, right?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it.
So let's be clear. Here, you're giving us directions to continue talking to them specifically to see if we can have the franchise fee forgiven by the franchisor.
I think, Ms. Baker, we gave permission to negotiate. And at this point, we could take a vote, do whatever the board wants. I hesitate. I don't have enough information, number one. Number two, I do not like being forced, compelled, put up against a wall with 24 hours to negotiate a $15 million plus $1.7 million deal without any further information. We're here. There's no better negotiator than Isme. Tough as nails, right? So whatever you can do to negotiate, you already have authority to negotiate. See what you can do. And if there's other hotels, or if there are, I have a list of distressed properties that we can buy for less than $1 million and put up mini cottages or whatever we can. But I just don't have enough information to say, let's go ahead and spend this amount of money. I don't know if we have support services in there. I don't know if it's on a transit corridor. Come and visit with us, talk to us, possibly, Doctor, and then let's. You certainly have authority to negotiate. Go ahead and negotiate, and then you can come back with what you think is reasonable.
Let me suggest, Mayor, that Tammy and I come talk to you. It's me trying to negotiate to get the franchise fee removed. We are under a tight time frame. We're not the only ones interested in this property. And I think the sale ends today? Tomorrow. So we want to make sure that we stay on top of it. Unfortunately, we have to negotiate these things in the public. The private sector doesn't.
Of course.
So in this discussion, we're telling them what we're doing, so they go $1 above, where we are. So let us come talk to you. Let us share the information, and Isme's going to move forward with talking to the franchisor to see if we can eliminate that franchise fee.
You have authority to negotiate. Go negotiate, Doctor. Good luck with it. Thank you.
Mayor, before we conclude, the Housing and Homeless Alliance is here, and they wanted to, they've been meeting. I know several of you have attended some of their very large sessions, and so they wanted to provide some comments
This is a
as well.
workshop. Go right ahead, Ms. Fields. Introduce anybody you'd like.
Thank you, Tammy and Dr. Green, for yielding some of your time to the Homeless and Housing Alliance.
Let me just interrupt for I could.
Sure.
It's 11:48, and we have two other issues that we're going to look at today in our workshop. I'd like to open this up to the board. Would we like to have a time certain that we will break for lunch so that folks who are here for the other two issues could also have something to eat as well? So I'm open to, how much longer will you be, Ms. Fields, so we can finish with your issue?
6 minutes.
10 minutes?
6.
That's good.
6 minutes, she said.
6. 5.5. We're moving forward. And how many cards do we have, Commissioner Weiss?
Yeah.
No, I want to know so that you know if you'll be done then with your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, good. Then we'll discuss what we're going to do for lunch. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Jennifer Sellers. I'm joined here with Ezra Krieg to represent the Homeless and Housing Alliance and to discuss the findings and recommendations of our Unsheltered Legislation Task Force. Thank you to the county, to our partners here for including us in your presentation. Much appreciated. Understanding the broad implications of Bill 1365 for our community and for those who are facing housing insecurity, the HHA formed this task force to address the issue. I'd like just to take a few moments to share with you how we arrived at the recommendations that you see on the screen. In April, we launched our first task force meeting, bringing together partners from across the community. After initial discussions, we intentionally invited diverse sectors, each of which would be impacted by this legislation. We had an overwhelming turnout of around 200 participants from all walks of life. HHA member agencies, law enforcement, healthcare, hospitals, developers, business owners, community nonprofits, homeless service providers, elected officials, policymakers, funders, faith-based organizations, and individuals who have formerly experienced homelessness and those who are currently housing insecure were all in attendance. This was truly a remarkable experiment. It really was a collective voice of the community and a voice across all sectors. We provided 5 prompts to participants, challenging them to express concerns, propose suggestions, and brainstorm solutions. The response was tremendous, over 1,000 submissions. The task force carefully reviewed each suggestion and compiled them into 11 pages of raw data. We have handouts for your reference, so you can see the raw data if you so choose. From there, we grouped similar ideas, ultimately identifying key themes across the prompts. Our process led us to recommendations in 5 categories: immediate alternatives, strategic direction, challenges, opportunities, and ethical considerations. In June, we hosted 2 additional large-scale meetings, one with the HHA's general membership and another with the broader community. Again, we saw participation from all sectors represented in our initial meeting. Attendees ranked the suggestions and recommendations through an online platform. On this slide, you'll see the top-ranked recommendations, which were published in the HHA's Unsheltered Legislation Task Force report in June. These recommendations are divided into 2 groups: those for the HHA committees to address and those for community leadership to take on. On the left side of the slide, you'll find the top 3 to 4 recommendations assigned to each HHA committee or pillar. These recommendations range from researching solutions tried in other communities and municipalities, providing education to the community about the legislation, and determining the impact of increasing emergency shelter length of stay. On the right side, you'll see the areas the task force determined to be better suited for action by our community leadership. Recommendations include amending the legislation, creating affordable housing, and increasing funding for providers. We have also outlined here short-term solutions and long-term solutions. Top-ranked short-term solutions include establishing a walk-up day-night shelter, creating transitional housing, identifying additional nonprofit funding opportunities, safe parking lots, and donating land for future affordable housing. Top-ranked long-term solutions include developing tiny homes, as we've heard, addressing housing affordability on a systemic scale, prioritizing housing for individuals earning less than 50% of the area median income. What we've accomplished here through this task force is truly exceptional. Earlier, I referred to the task force as an experiment, and indeed it really was. We knew that Bill 1365 would have a significant impact, and we understood the solutions would need to be complex and multifaceted. We didn't know how the task force would work or even if it would work, but it did. I can confidently say that we have successfully amplified the voices of our community, of your constituents. Today, we represent the ideas, innovations, and solutions generated right here in Palm Beach County. There's a phrase that was shared with me recently, about us, with us. Good policy decisions are made when all affected parties have a voice. If a policy affects us, it's only right that we are part of shaping it. And that's what we have here, our community's voice helping to find solutions. Together, we can find those solutions, continue to strengthen our partnerships, and build a more equitable community in Palm Beach County. On behalf of the HHA, Ezra and I thank you for your time and your consideration, and I yield back to the county's presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very
And
much.
that concludes our presentation.
Thank you. We have 10 cards, and I would suggest that we have the cards first and then break for lunch. What is the position of the board? Right? Okay, good. That way we will have completed this one agenda item, and we all can be excused. And then those of you who are here for B and C will know that we will meet again after lunch. Okay. Commissioner McBernard, would you do the honors of the time? Very good. Okay, Commissioner Weiss, we will call 4 names, take 2 podiums, and we will move swiftly but efficiently along. Go right ahead, Commissioner.
Christina Lucier,
Come forward.
Erica Whitfield, Ezra Krieg, and Daquan James.
Okay. If you hear your name, come on up. If you're not here when your name is called, we'll see you another day. Go right ahead, ma'am. You're recognized. State your name.
Good morning. I'm Christina Lucier, the Vice President of Community Programs with the Lord's Place. Thanks for having this discussion today. At the Lord's Place, we're dedicated to breaking the cycle of homelessness through innovative, compassionate, and effective solutions. While much of the discussion around HB 1365 has focused around the issues of enforcement, social service organizations, including the Lord's Place, have come together to advocate for a focus on solutions, as we've heard. We as a community cannot enforce our way into ending homelessness. For the majority of those living on the streets, in parks, or in vehicles, there's nowhere else to go. Based on data from the point in time count that we heard about, Palm Beach County currently only has the capacity to provide short-term shelter for less than 20% of those who are actually experiencing homelessness on any given day. After October 1st, what will happen to the other 80%? Thankfully, our community has already been working tirelessly to come together and draft meaningful solutions. For example, the HHA has gathered the community input to develop policy and program recommendations shared with you today, as well as with municipalities. At the Lord's Place, we continue to advocate that the most important solution for addressing homelessness is housing. We are supportive of recommendations to expand capacity for emergency, transitional, permanent, supportive, and affordable housing. We support the expansion of supportive services such as street outreach and shelter diversion, which are designed to connect those experiencing homelessness with the most appropriate and efficient housing options based on their needs. The House bill provides for limited resources to develop these solutions, making the use of local and federal resources critically important in meeting this challenge. In closing, we must not allow this bill to dehumanize some of the most vulnerable members of our community by penalizing them for a situation they can't control or change on their own. An enforcement-focused response to Bill 1365 would decrease safety for those experiencing homelessness, place significant strains on law enforcement and other community responders, and create barriers for agencies like the Lord's Place working to provide housing and social services. On the other hand, a solution-focused response would ensure that people experiencing homelessness had available and attainable options for short and long-term housing, along with supportive services for those who need them. As part of our mission, we firmly believe that addressing the needs of people experiencing homelessness and the needs of our community as a whole will not come through an increase in enforcement, but rather must come from the development of housing-focused solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ma'am, state your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Erica Whitfield. I am one of your school board members. I've actually been a school board member for 10 years now, and that entire time I have served on your homeless advisory board.
Thank you for your
as the
service.
representative. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. So I wanted to bring to all of your attention the comments that were made earlier about the McKinney-Vento program, our homeless students within our school system, and just I think it's such an important issue when we're talking about the direction that the county is going to go and the decisions that you all are making. So thank you so much for spending 3 hours on this today. We really do appreciate it. I think this is obviously it's one of the things that's most important to our children. So this past year, we had 6,133 homeless students within our system. Those students really are experiencing insecure housing. They have possibly living with a neighbor, a friend, an aunt, somewhere they may not be able to be safe. That is up from 5828 the year before. So we are really seeing an increase in our students. Some of that is due to diligence of looking and trying to find these students, but many reasons are really because of the economy, inflation, and difficulty finding housing, safe housing within our community, affordable housing within our community. The number that I really want to bring your attention most to, though, is that during this time, we had over 200 students living outside. And so I want you to really imagine that number. 200 students, we're talking little kids with their mom. We're talking teenagers that may be by themselves. And these people are students within our school system, and they're trying to learn. And it is so difficult to teach a child who is living outside, who is not having a safe place to go every night. So the 5,000, 6,000 students that have somewhere to live, at least they have somewhere to go. But we're talking children that are outside. With this legislation, my biggest worry is that we've talked about civil causes of action. So we're talking about children, mom and dad maybe getting a ticket or being, at the worst case, arrested for just the act of being homeless. So there's lots of things where this law can go. So I don't want to see the impact on our families, on our children, be so great that they could really have to feel issues that are no longer going to make them able to continue to live in our community. Also, there's been a talk about cars. Those 200 kids, many of them could be in cars, and the chances of them being licensed and insured are pretty low. So if that is an option for them to be in a car, I think we need to find safe places for them to go. Finally, with my last 15 seconds, I'll just tell you that the school district has been developing a dashboard where we can show you the impact on all of our students within the system of being homeless, the hunger programs, attendance, discipline, test scores, and city jurisdictions, and that should be published very shortly, and I look forward to sharing that information with you. Thank you all
so
very
much. We have a question. Commissioner Weiss?
Yes. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Whitfield. Can you said 200 students. How many families is that?
I'm not sure how many that is.
That would be,
actually.
I think, really important for us to understand. I mean, it's a big number.
Yes.
But it's, when we look at families, it's probably, it's going to be smaller and maybe.
And that's something I could definitely get.
So we
for
can
you.
try and figure out, how many we need
How
to
many people
provide
there are
for.
in that. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on just 1 second. Commissioner Marino, are you hearing this?
No, it's me.
Oh my gosh. We do need lunch at some point.
Thanks,
You go right
Madam
ahead,
Mayor.
Go ahead.
School Board Member Whitfield, you had mentioned the dashboard. What's the time frame in terms of having the dashboard ready, and how would the public, or how can we work with the school district on the dashboard?
Thank you very much for your interest in it. I was trying to get it out today, but I don't think we're quite there. We're within the next few days, hopefully week, we could be able to get it done. So they've said to me shortly, they're checking on personally identifiable data. So hopefully as soon as we get that last little bit checked off, The idea that I had behind the dashboard is that all of our funders in our community can really see where the needs in the school system are. People would ask me all the time, how many homeless kids do we have? Where are they? Which schools are the most impacted? Which kids are struggling the most? And when you start tying in attendance and discipline data, what you're seeing is a homeless student has a real hard time showing up. They have a really hard time doing well. They may be getting in more fights. You're really seeing their test scores be impacted. It's one of our hardest groups to teach, students who don't have a safe place to be. So I think we can show that to the municipalities, to the county, to our funders in our community, and really direct resources so that every one of those students can have access to a backpack program where they get food on the weekends. Things like that would be amazing. Have clothing, maybe a washer dryer option so that we can clean their clothes. There's lots of things that we can do to facilitate their being in school and then hopefully getting an education.
And so this dashboard is to help get resources to the students.
I really wanted it to be transparency, because sometimes this information is something that only those of us in education know, and I want everyone in our community to understand what could, where we could really find a way to help these students, because we are talking 6,000 students in Palm Beach County. It's a very large number, and when you look at their test scores, they're very, very low. Mm-hmm. And so these are our kids, and how can we work on that? So I think there's a lot of resources out there that just need to be directed, and so this is an opportunity for us to kind of show you one of our biggest problem areas and how you can help us to really mitigate that.
One last final question, Madam
Sure,
Mayor.
no, go right ahead. 'Cause
So
I have a couple.
Dr. James Greens in Taruna, how can the county work with the school district in regards to if you get, let's say, those 200 kids and families, what can we do, and what's the interaction between the county and the school district in terms of getting those families assistance?
So what we have been doing, working very closely with school board case management staff, and then making sure that as soon as a family is identified as a McKinley-Vento client, or they are experiencing homelessness, we are connecting them directly with Adopt a Family, or if Adopt a Family has encountered a family, they are connecting them with the school board. So the numbers I have with school board, like, we prioritize the category 1, the ones who are in the cars or the shelters. That's when we are prioritizing it. Consent is a big issue, getting the consent from the family. So there has been like a lot of work done in last couple of years to start getting that consent that allows us to do this kind of work. We have been working a lot with Keith because the consent rate is very low currently for the families. They just don't want to share some of that information with the county or with the COC as a whole. As soon as the family has been identified, we are prioritizing them. The numbers I have specifically for the folks who are in the cars and the shelters, majority of those families have already been either in some kind of a supportive housing or in a hotel, motel, or we are working with them in a diversion to get them reunited with their other family members. So we are going to keep on doing that. The dashboard, which Erica is talking about it, currently, we do not have anything in our database to mark them as McKinley-Vento, but we are serving them. So our focus for next few months is to work with the school board and our HMIS vendor to get that mapping electronically so that we can compare the dashboard from school board to show them on the category 1 clients how many we have already housed, actively housed, or we have housed them and now they have exited the system. The rules for McKinley-Vento is a little bit different than ours. Once they identify a client as a McKinley-Vento, even if they get served or housed, they still stay as a number as unhoused. So for us, it's very important for us to always get updated numbers so that even if school board is not able to update the numbers because of the law, we can show how many people we have already housed. Unfortunately, we cannot take care of the other 5,800 or 5,900 because they do not fall under the category of homelessness but that's where our prevention programs come in play. We are now connecting all the case managers for the school board with our resource and referral portal so that they can see where the client is, what services we can provide. So there is a lot of effort to help them through the prevention programs as well.
Okay. Yeah, I just, for specifically the 200 kids that are, let's say category 1, I'm hoping that we can create a system that, working with the school district, that if we can get the consent, then we can help those families as best as possible. Thank you,
Commissioner,
Madam.
may I just say that we have made this dashboard a live update. So as the students come in, we are going to be posting that data every night. And so when you look at the dashboard, you'll be able to see, because maybe those 200 are off, but then we get more. And so this is like over the year, we're going to see more coming in, especially with the struggles in the community right now.
I'm sure that when people, by the way, thank you for your service on the school board. When children are enrolled in school, they have an address. So how do you know 6,000 students who do not have addresses? How does the school district know that these children are without a home?
So you can register without an address if you've lived in Palm Beach County and you've been here. They will, and you can put where you are currently staying and if that's a secure house or not. We do a registration questionnaire, and then we also have a homeless liaison named Alicia Coleman, and she has 8 case managers that work for her that are assigned to specific schools, and they are in there talking to the teachers, the principals, and being available because the teachers know. The teachers know when a kid's going through this, and so they will, once they get then they get a case manager from the school system, and then we are working with the county. We are working with Adoptive Family and Lord's Place and with the Lewis Center to try to find them services, but it can be a long wait.
It sounds like it. And would you please send us some idea of how we can help these kids? I mean, we talk about buying a hotel, $15, $16 million, but I'm concerned. We have kids going to school. Sometimes that's their only meal when they get their free lunch. This is sad. This is really sad. These are kids. And if they're living in cars, yeah, I'd say they're homeless. It may not come under our definition if they're living in a car.
They do.
But
They do.
Okay, then our count of 2,162 homeless is not counting the 6,000 kids who are homeless.
No.
So we have an issue here that we need to address. Will you stay close with this issue, please?
Absolutely, always.
Okay?
Thank
Okay.
you guys
good.
so much. I
Thank you for
appreciate you
your
having me.
report. Thank you for being here. Okay, Commissioner Weiss, do we have another?
Ezra is next,
Okay, very good, sir.
and then Daquan James.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, it's still morning. No, it isn't. Good afternoon. Thank you for providing this opportunity today, Mayor and Commissioners, and thank you for the ongoing support and discussion about homelessness in our community, especially led by our retiring Commissioner, Mac Bernard, who has been a champion of affordable housing and a champion for unsheltered people in our community, and we all thank you for that. You've heard a lot of stuff today. I just want to highlight a couple of things that I think need to be understood. The mayor made a very important point. The cure for homelessness is very simple. It's getting heads in beds. And what we need to do, especially with this legislation, is do what we can to get heads in beds. And there are some long-term things we need to do, but there's some short things that I think you can address. Having a homeless court, getting that going so that we don't criminalize people that then the HHA and their agencies are expected to help, who now have more barriers in front of them. Let's find a way to divert them. Let's start a self-parking initiative so that people who are in their cars can be safe. We can't make perfect the enemy of good. And the alternative of having somebody be in a car and be safe is a lot better than having somebody in a car and not be safe. We should explore pallet housing, and much of what Mayor Sachs is talking about. We need to look at that and to be able to do it. I recently went to Atlanta, saw a program that is being done in Atlanta very effectively at $20,000 a unit. We need to look at that. We need to train our municipal police officers. PBSO is doing an incredible job with Jim Mackey in training people. We need to extend that training to municipal police officers so that they understand some of the alternatives to arrest. We have existing beds available in the community that are available at $36,000 a year, includes food, laundry, wraparound services, and case management at the Salvation Army. Why we're not contracting with Salvation Army right now to get those beds online is ridiculous. We need to do it. Lisa Hall is here. She can give you the information. It's available. We need a day-night shelter. We need a way for people to get people not being visible. People who are unsheltered become a problem when they're visible. And so if we can make them invisible and provide them with services, we can do a lot. Thank you very much. I'm a member of the HAB since it was formed in 2007. I'm the only one that still exists on the HAB today. Thank you.
Okay, would you leave that pamphlet, sir, Mr. Creek? After the meeting, if you could make sure that, I don't know how many of those pamphlets you have, but if you only have one, I'll make sure it's good for each of the commissioners. Thank you, sir. Sir, you're recognized.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Push
My
it up.
fault, I'm nervous.
That's
But
okay. Just tell us your
my,
name.
My name is Dan Quinn James.
Okay.
And I was a victim of youth homelessness. I've been in Palm Beach for 6 years. I was 17 when I became homeless. So I know how I feel to be out living in the streets, living at the park, sleeping at the park. It was one time I had got arrested. I had slept in a truck, but it wasn't mine, so I got in trouble for it because it was raining, cold out. I ain't had nowhere else to go, so it was an open vehicle I was able to sleep in. So it's hard for a lot of homeless people, especially the youth, because we have school, and gotta get my thoughts
Okay,
together.
take your time.
But yeah, I feel like we need to focus on more of the youth, helping on the homeless youth than anything, because I mean, that's the future. The youth is the future. And if we go down, so will the world, so will the future if we go down too. We can't be lost in the world trying to figure out who will be able to help us, who can't help us. But I've been working with Vita Nova for the past 2 years. They helped me a lot. They got me my ID, social. I was able to get my high school diploma. Helped me with housing, finding me a job. They did a lot for me for the past 2 years, and I'm grateful for them. And, that would be all.
That'd be
I don't have
good.
anything else to say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I want to say that when we had the mayor's symposium to talk about homelessness, Vita Nova was there. And I know that our staff is working with Vita Nova because they work with the staff, and thank you so much. You're part of our public-private partnerships that work so well, and you did an excellent job, sir. Thank you.
Mayor, if I could add to that, we've had the pleasure at Youth Services of being able to have 2 of Vita Nova's students that have come and been interns with us. The one most recently just left, and Vita Nova really helped her move forward, and she just joined the military a couple of weeks ago. So the partnership has been fabulous.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for all you do. Ms. Baker, are you here?
No.
Okay. Go right ahead, Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. Anaria Marville, Leroy Hunter, Sam Wilcox, and Alberto Altamiranda.
Okay, very good. All right, ma'am, tell us your, pull the microphone down a little
sorry,
bit.
I'm a
There
little
you
short.
go. There you go. All right,
You
go
guys
ahead
hear
and tell us
me?
your- Yes.
All right, perfect. Hi, my name is Anari. How are you guys doing today? I was a victim of homelessness. Shout out to Officer Maddie. I don't know if you can remember me. I was in nursing
Embarrassed.
school. The reason why I was homeless because I was living with my grandma, and my grandma passed away, so I lost her house. So I was trying to figure out how can I juggle nursing school, and on top of that, I was working full time. So it's like it was hard. So I reached out to the resource at my school. I got Officer Maddie number, still got the pictures to prove. He got me a hotel, and then he hooked me up with Vita Nova. Vita Nova helped me so much. You guys don't even understand. Like, it helped me find a better job. It got me getting my bachelor's at Palm Beach State, go Panthers. It got me into a permanent housing where sooner or later I'm gonna venture off into my own. And they helping me with financing, trying to get family wealth. And the reason why I'm here today is that we need to focus on the youth. At Vita Nova, I was at the Youth Action Board where we reach out for youth people. It's hard to get younger adults or younger kids to come to adults because they don't trust older people. And that's the reality of what we live in. So they come to people who they know, like, okay, you've been through this, how can I get help? So they come to us. So I volunteered myself at the Youth Action Board there. On top of that, I understand that your certain people focus is at the Tallahassee apartments. People already have homes. It's younger kids, 6 years old, 5 years old, who have teen moms who come to Vita Nova who don't have a place to stay. They living in cars, they living on sidewalks. I seen it, I have pictures to prove it. I'm out there walking on the street seeing it. I've been in their shoes to understand. But our main focus, like my friend said, is the youth. We are the next generation. You helping people who's in Tallahassee in a different city who already have apartments who need help staying in their apartments. Make it make sense. Make me understand where our main focus should be on. The youth homelessness or people who need to pay their rent or their whatever they have to pay. Our focus is getting food out there, getting resources, educations, understanding why they're in that situation, help them out that situation. If you help us out the situation, maybe we can help the next person. It's like networking, like you guys network. We network amongst ourselves. So that's all I gotta say. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very much. Sir, you're recognized. Tell us your name.
My name is Leroy Hunter, and I actually been living in West Palm Beach all my life. I'm 21 years old. Unfortunately, due to my medical circumstances, I am homeless. But say right now, being in West Palm Beach, seeing things around, I'm a good person, and I like to help people. But I'm also been dealing with Vita Nova for about a year and a half, and they done helped me due to my situation. And the fact is that remains, I'm 21 years old, blessed to see 21. And the fact is that I see parents that sleeping in their cars, and I even see their kids, even parents that got kids sleeping in their cars. And it's sad that, cause I know y'all been hearing that this park I used to go to growing up in West Palm Beach is called Curry Park. That even got gated. And this new rule affected my city pretty bad. West Palm Beach County had changed for the worse. I've been here all my life, and even sleeping in public parks, you would get trespassed. So for a person, and especially in my city, my hometown, West Palm Beach, Florida, I want to know what can I do, or any suggestions how we can end homelessness. What can us as homeless people can do. Because at the end of the day, ain't no way that we should be gated Curry Park, because usually people be sleeping at Curry Park, but now it's been gated. We'll be charged as trespassing. So it's really hard on our end, but dealing with Vita Nova, I've been dealing with Vita Nova for a year and a half, and they've been there with me for about a year and a half now. This is gonna be my second year dealing with them. So me being 21 and been in West Palm Beach all my life, I really love this city, but I hate the fact that we as youth are going through it, especially kids. What about the parents that got kids? They got to sleep in the houses. They got to sleep in the parks. So the fact is that remain that we cannot, there's no way to lay our head is sad. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sir, do you have a place to sleep right now?
Yes, I'm staying with a friend for right now due to my medical circumstances. Yes.
You're staying with a friend?
Yes.
Okay, but Vita Nova is helping to
Yes.
get you established. Thank you, and thank you, Vita Nova. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, for coming here. Commissioner Weiss?
Sam Wilcox, Alberto Altamiranda, and Robert Garvey.
Sir, come on up, state your name, the time is clicking.
Thank you all for your time today. I appreciate you, commissioners and Mayor Sachs.
He's the last.
So what I've handed out to everybody to take a look at is a public-private partnership, which I've heard a lot about today, to a response to Bill HB 1365. This project covers housing, the care coordination, the wraparound services for individuals that are currently houseless, and then with a workforce reentry program on the back end. The project's goal is to provide private resources such as hospitals, urgent care centers, mental health and behavioral health centers, work with FAR, the Florida Association of Recovery Residents, and ABC Cares, who is our nonprofit, or ABC Institute, excuse me, our nonprofit workforce reentry program. Now, I do want to clarify that this response is strictly for those suffering with substance abuse and primary substance abuse along with mental health issues. Unfortunately, we don't cover children or families, so just to clarify that. Now, if you turn to page 3, we've already talked about all this today, so I'm not going to bore everybody and be redundant. But at the same time, I do want to touch on 2 numbers. It costs taxpayers around $25,000 per 6 months to house someone in the Palm Beach County Jail with medications. And that's a rough number that I checked with a former corrections worker. And due to the increased costs, and I got this from our wonderful community service department, we're looking at $35,000 to $45,000, which I believe Officer Mackey stated too, just to keep homeless folks on the street and receive our resources. So, long story short, I know I don't have a lot of time. I'm hoping that I can have his 3 minutes be used for him and Micah. That'd be great. Long story short, you can start, our urgent care centers are going to act like touch points in the community to where folks can come in, they're going to be evaluated there. You're going to have primary care, all of that ready and available with a care coordination team to be able to place that individual if they need inpatient. If they do not, then they are placed in FAR housing. And then that individual is followed all the way through with wraparound services. At that time, they're going to be enrolled into ABC Institute to be able to receive soft skills, as well as have an opportunity for apprenticeship program and be placed in a job. So I think those hit a lot of the key determining factors on keeping these people, giving them a purpose and having them be able to start to, feel good about themselves and move forward. Is having a job, have a house, and in here you'll see that we have our urgent care partner services and fee schedules, our inpatient partner services and fee schedules, our FAR, and he'll come up and speak, our FAR services and fee schedule, our wraparound services, and the Institute's fee schedule with what all that they offer on here. So
thank you so much, and thank you for the information. We all have received a copy of it. Okay, Commissioner Weiss?
Alberto Altamiranda, Robert Garvey is our last speaking card.
Mr. Garvey, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, just 1 second. We have a question from Commissioner Baxter. You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was actually for Mr. Wilcox. I know that 3 minutes isn't long enough. Was there a specific ask or something you were wanting to get to for us to consider?
I guess what I would ask you to consider is, I know that we have some leftover COVID funding, And I would like to have a track to work with the public-private partnership for us to work with our first responders as well as our community service to help place these affected individuals into FAR accredited housing with wraparound services. That's pretty much our ask.
Have you been having conversations with staff already regarding this at all?
Yes, not as much as I would like, but yes, ma'am.
I mean, I would like to ask staff to really look into this because private-public partnerships seem to work best and are the most efficient and affordable way for us to help, especially, I know that he happens to specialize in substance abuse and housing for those, or beds and so on. And so I would really like to see staff work with them. So please.
We will definitely follow up, and this is a discussion that we can also have. We'll be bringing back to the board some recommendations regarding the opioid settlement dollars, and so this would be an appropriate conversation to have there as well.
I appreciate that, so thank you.
There's one number I'd like to throw out if that's okay.
Please.
Our program on a 6-month basis is cheaper than jailing them by, I think, 30%, 30%, and then for what they're using resource-wise, it is cheaper as well to go through our program where we're going to have outcomes, job placement, things of that nature. So just want to throw that out there.
Thank you.
Thank
again.
you. Thank you for your time.
Sir, you're recognized.
Hi, I'm Robert Garvey. I'm a resident of West Palm Beach, Florida. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I began looking at the homeless problem several years ago, the immensity of it, the disastrousness of it. Its intractability stunned me as a national problem. I had an opportunity to speak to the governor about it and asked for his involvement because it seemed to me that this problem, two specific aspects of it, simply could not be handled financially at the county or municipality level. Those included the drug addiction and mental health problems, as well as housing. 50 years ago, 50 years ago, when Ronald Reagan emptied the asylums in the United States, it began this problem. The advancement of drug addiction in the country exacerbated it. Now with the housing component, we have an issue that must be addressed at the state level in the state of Florida. The governor was responsive to my inquiries to him. I've stayed in touch with him numerous times. I took a group to Tallahassee in April of this year to meet with the Chief of Staff, the Deputy Chief of Staff, the Secretary of Child and Family Services, the Director of Policy and Budget for the state. We presented an 8-point plan to them. The essential ingredients of that included housing and mental health support. Commissioner Weiss attended that with me. I've been working with Dr. Green for well over a year. I approached Virginia Baker a couple of years ago about this. And I've put together, but my effort has been really at the state level this is a $1 billion problem. This is not a problem to deal with dozens or a few dozen housing units. This is a big problem. This state is uniquely positioned to address it. We have a filibuster-proof legislature. We have a governor, whatever you believe about his politics, he's not afraid of intractable problems. He will address this problem, but we must have funding from the state level. I took a group to Tallahassee, most recently to Miami. I've taken a group to Houston. It included the Chief of Police, the Faye Johnson, the Chief Administrator, the Deputy Chief of Police. We really address, and now my argument to the governor was, look, Palm Beach County is the perfect place for a model program. We have a wealthy private community that will be involved and is involved. The CEO of Related Housing is involved with this, as well as the director, the CEO and founder of Related. So my effort here would be with the state. They want specifics, so they want a specific plan and a specific ask. I would be happy to follow up with whomever at your level would like to work with me on this. I worked with Wendy and Dr.
Very Green good. and others. Thank you, sir. Stay right there. Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank you, Mr. Garvey, for everything that you've been doing on this front. You and I have known each other for a number of years, and you've been passionate about trying to help solve homelessness in Palm Beach County, in West Palm Beach. I really do appreciate your willingness to go to the governor. I mean, it's clear, we saw the numbers today. This is something we've been trying to solve on our own. And it's as you say, it's way beyond something that local folks can do on their own. It's a very expensive and proposition, but I appreciate your leadership. And I know staff is listening to you right now, and we'll be happy to come up if we need a plan and you need the dollar amount. Then I'm sure they will be able to provide that to you so you can go to the governor with a specific ask for it, and look forward to you being successful in bringing that money back and making sure that everybody has a home here in Palm Beach County.
Thank you. I just would like to add one final note.
Absolutely.
This is the only state in the union where an effort like this is possible, because we have a $17 to $20 billion budgetary surplus at the state level every year, all right? And that money, we need to direct those funds to this big problem, and this is the place for a model program.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Garvey. I'd like to say, I don't know you and never met you before, but I like your ideas. I think that this idea of this 1365 did not originate in the governor's office. It originated with a state senator who really doesn't have any idea what it's like to live in areas in Broward, Dade, and certainly in Palm Beach County. You're a lifelong resident of West Palm. We have one of the biggest issues is the homelessness in West Palm Beach. So I'm going to ask for your help, your suggestions, your advice. I, as mayor, intend to write a letter on behalf of the county commission, and everybody here will approve it before it goes, telling the governor that we will not have every homeless child or person off the streets in a house before January 1st. But we have a plan, and we're going to show him the plan, and with your help, sir, maybe he will understand that the $30 million he gave for the state does not include the help that we need here. And we have a plan that has been tested in other cities, and I think we will take care of this. And you're very correct about the history of this all with President Reagan. I remember that. So I look forward to working with you and with my colleagues in addressing this issue to the governor. Thank you, sir, for being here today and for your work. Commissioner Weiss, do you have any other cards?
Mr. Altamiranda.
Sir, you're recognized.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Commissioner, and community members. My name is Alberto Altamiranda. I'm the director of ABC Institute, and I'm proud to partner with FAR and HARC. ABC Institute is the education arm of ABC. ABC is Association of Builders and Contractors. We are the Florida East Coast chapter, headquartered in Coconut Creek. And the reason why I'm here is because I'm very passionate and committed to changing lives. And the way we do that is through our apprenticeship program. We are the #1 apprenticeship program in the state of Florida. We have currently over 800 apprentices in 10 different locations. We have been honored to receive, just recently, $850,000 awarded by the state of Florida to continue our apprenticeship work in the community. Previously years, we have received several $1 million from the same entity, and that's the Pathways to Careers and Opportunity Grant. Through that grant, we've been able to impact lives. If I may share a short story, it's a young man, Chance, 18 years old, came to one of our pre-apprentice program, which is just short-term program to learn about construction industry and the opportunities that he has as a young man to work in that field. Chance lost his mother, his dad was incarcerated, and he had now, as an 18-year-old, the duty to take care of his siblings. So Chance came to us, doesn't have a car, which is coming via bus. Long story short, Chance is now working in the construction field. He is one of our apprentices, so now he has a sense of purpose and dignity for his future, and that's what we do. we change lives. And I just proud to say that we, to partner with this organization and be able to do that. ABC Florida East Coast chapter will be happy to be a resource of information to the city of Palm Beach through expertise of our construction industry experts to aid in the development of future affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I've used your organization when I was in Tallahassee. It's good. Do you talk to Vita Nova?
We haven't.
Well, maybe y'all should
So
do
now-
that, because I think that it would help out a lot. This is what it's all about today, is making those.
Now we
connections.
should, and if I may just paint a quick picture for you, we're talking about homelessness, but picture these individuals having an apprenticeship program.
That's good.
And now learning a career trade that then they can have a handprint in the place where they're gonna live, because they have been the electrician or the plumber or the roofer for those
Very,
locations.
very good. Don't go away. Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you. Well, since you're still up here, thank you for your apprenticeship work. I met with some of your counterparts and know how important it is for, anyone. Housing is important, but that sense of purpose, that sense of being able to stand on their own 2 feet, that's, a huge deal. I wanted to thank the young people who came and shared their stories from Vita Nova and talking about, your success stories. It's huge, and people need to know about, this program and that it works, and it's taking young people and giving them the same sense of purpose, and you being able to share your story with others who are out there. It's a big deal. And I wanted to just, Mr. Craig, sorry. If you could just come back up. After you left, I was writing my notes and then you were gone. But I wanted to ask a couple questions. You mentioned the safe parking, you mentioned a few other facilities, and you and I have had this conversation before where, because of federal regulations, in our homeless shelters, we actually can't do drug testing. They're not allowed to do substances on site, but people can come there. And as a woman, I know I've visited, and there's been instances where I myself would probably be more comfortable sleeping in my car than sometimes what's there, and that's just the honest reality of it. And I asked you about places where people could go to feel safe, and you had mentioned the parking lots, that there's a couple of locations. The big parts being that there's facilities with showers and even laundry, food, and then also having our services be in those places, so when people find themselves there, that they can, find out what options are available to help them through this. And if it's going to be sleeping in your car for a few nights or a week until something can be found, if we can put them in a safe place where it's, a fenced-in area where, a good night's sleep, a shower, clean clothes, a full belly, all of these things are also important to get them into the housing. So, a lot of the options that you put in your recommendations were very encouraging to me, because I do believe safety it's a big deal. However, we end up getting people into, a clean place with food, getting them into this, but then getting the jobs and getting the next step after this, because really to solve the homelessness is getting people able to, like these young adults at Vita Nova, getting their own jobs, finishing their education. What's the future for this? So I'm very encouraged by a lot of what I heard today. I did want to also address one other thing about Tallahassee. Just so you know, when we're talking about we need to go to Tallahassee to work on these problems, we mean the legislators that are there. We want them to change a few rules for us, for our residents here. It's not about helping people who live in Tallahassee. I just wanted to clarify that, because we do talk a lot about Tallahassee, but we just mean our representatives, they all meet up there. That's the capital of the state. They make some laws, but it affects every county, every city in the state, what they do there. So I just wanted to clarify that. When we say go to Tallahassee, we don't mean help those people. We mean make better laws that affect us here in Palm Beach County. But if you could just address the safe parking, I think both of us, we talked about that. The safe parking areas, the overnight shelters where we could make sure that anyone who goes in there, if it's a single adult, they're having everything that they own with them. We need them to be able to rest easy at night, that they're safe in that place.
Well, Commissioner, you did a much better job of explaining it than I ever could. But I will tell you, safe parking is operational and successful in several places around the country. Several of us went to Washington this summer at the National Conference to End Homelessness. We had the opportunity to spend some time with folks from Santa Barbara, California, who have 17 sites around their city where there are safe places where people can park their car. And as you said, they're then surrounded with services. They can take showers, they can get food, the kids can get homework help, and so on. And they don't have to worry about predators. They don't have to worry about enforcement, that they can have a place that they can stay. It's something easily done. There is a church in town that is willing to host as a demonstration project if we can assure that there would be some security available to that location so that they could make sure that there were no predators and so on. So these are things, they're not perfect. They have problems. But again, we can't make perfect the enemy of good. If we can provide these kinds of things, all sorts of things, put a recipe together with lots of different options for lots of different people, we can really make a difference.
Thank you. And I just would like to add, I was encouraged that Career Source is on there. I'm on the board, and you're on the directing board. And there are a number of jobs. We have employers everywhere that are looking for jobs, and it's really just helping connect the two. And if there's additional maybe certifications that are needed, and that's also services that we provide. So I was very, if we move forward with any of this type of stuff, that having all of that information at these locations, I think would be helpful.
Good. Thank you. So I'm so proud of my board in that we spent hours today on an issue that is complex and has really been a source of ways to solve this issue throughout the country, really throughout the world. And I think a couple of takeaways is shelters don't work for a lot of people. Women, I know, do not want to go into a shelter because they just don't have the security. And many homeless people also will have a dog with them. They're not welcome in shelters, so they don't go. I think that the ways that we have researched today, the people, most especially people who are coming up from the community, whether it's Salvation Army, who still has beds available, and Krieg and many of you, Vita Nova, ABC, we will find a solution. We will find a solution, and we will take the solution to the governor's office and let him know that we've got law enforcement out there working on it. And I'll tell you something, I want you to all know that I saw a homeless person, and it broke my heart. It was right here in Okeechobee. And Dr. Green, you were out there. It was a mom selling bottles of water to people in cars while her baby was in a stroller in the sun. Dr. Green, you took care of the situation immediately. But we don't have enough housing. And this small, tiny cottages we can build complete with water and everything for $50,000 each, surrounded by support services with security. We will find a way. We will find a way out of this. And I appreciate all of you. I know that I have a light to my right, and I know who that is. That is Commissioner Bernard. You're recognized, sir.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to weigh in on a couple of things. And as we heard from everyone, housing is so important, and we have to be so creative in terms of providing housing for our residents. But there are a couple of things that were mentioned that I want to make sure that in the future, when we're having these discussions, I believe mental health is something that we really have to have and be at the table. So, in terms of dealing with substance abuse, hopefully we have CEFPIN at the table and healthcare districts. So now we're able to navigate the mental health component of homelessness. Another issue that was brought up was the homeless court. I think that that's something that we should look to, working with the Criminal Justice Commission, with the representative from the Criminal Justice Commission, the state attorney, the public defender, and specifically a municipality, because, although we're, the county, but we need to partner with the municipality. So I just think that the concept of a homeless court, we've had discussions regarding creating a homeless court in the past, and so I'm hoping that that's something that we can take a look at for the future for Palm Beach County. And then lastly, it's just we have to work with the municipalities, the cities, the city of West Palm Beach, because a lot of these issues are, even if we're going to say put a safe parking, we have to have a partner. We have to work with the municipality. So as we're having these discussions, let's make sure that we're working with the municipalities to bring them to the table. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And let me just, in response to that, I want to say that the city of West Palm Beach has responded. Last Friday, we went with Dr. Green and Tammy and Jonathan Brown and the former president of GL Homes, Alan Fant, with representatives from the city of West Palm Beach, looking at areas where we can build tiny cottages in the city as well as right outside the city limits. So I'd like to commend the city of West Palm Beach for their active participation in this right now. Yeah, Dr. Green,
I
go
just
right
want to
ahead.
mention that we do have a presentation with the League of Cities tomorrow, I believe. No, Thursday.
No, it's tomorrow.
On the 25th. I think it's on the 25th. Well, Tammy and I will be going to the League of Cities and doing a presentation and sharing our strategies. And we will be publishing and sharing 10 things that they can do to really engage in this effort and have a major impact in our ability to address HB 1365.
Very good, thank you. Madam Baker.
Just wanted to, number one, thank the board for your time, and because this is a complicated issue, and a number of you have been with us over the years to allow us to do the programs that were laid out earlier. But I did want to clarify two things. One, we do work with the Salvation Army in contracting for beds. We're always looking for more money so we can contract for more beds if they are available, but we do work with them as one of our major partners in providing this service. And we do provide security at our resource centers. We have, and we also work with the sheriff's office because sometimes they will have an office located in there. So we'll continue to monitor that situation. So the individuals, and that's why we have a variety of where we can put people up, because everybody needs to feel safe, right? And so sometimes the resource center doesn't meet the need, so hotels may meet the need, or our smart landlord program may need the need. Everybody has different needs, but I just wanted to be known that we do have security in our resource centers. And we'll continue to monitor to make sure the people that are in there are feeling safe, because that's important.
If there's no further business before the board, we're going to take a recess. And it is, let the record reflect, it's 12:51. What is the, 2 o'clock? I hear 2 o'clock. Do I hear 2 o'clock on the left? I hear 2 o'clock it is. We'll see y'all back here at 2 o'clock. Thank you for the presentation.